Chapter 161, The Unspoken Bond of Mother and Daughter. Ning Fengji turned to her daughter, Ning Rongrong, her expression soft but earnest. Rongrong, why didn't you tell us about this earlier? There was no accusation in her voice, only gentle curiosity. Now it made perfect sense why the golden life-saving card had appeared in Cheng Xiao's possession. It had been used to save someone's life. Rongrong's cheeks flushed. I meant to explain, but when I thought about how Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo might react, how they'd be ready to descend and punish those responsible, I decided to stay quiet. Then Cheng Xiao arrived in time and handled everything, and I simply forgot to mention it. Her mother's face softened. Ning Fengji drew a steadying breath, then addressed Cheng Xiao with a warm smile. Cheng Xiao, my dear friend, may I ask a favor of you? Cheng Xiao inclined his head in respect. Sectmaster Ning, of course. Please, go ahead. I'd like Rongrong to transfer to the academy you and Qinghe have founded, Ning Fengzi said, her eyes shining with hope. The Shrek Academy doesn't suit her temperament, and I believe she'll thrive under your guidance. Would you accept her as your student? Cheng Xiao returned her smile. Sectmaster Ning, you flatter me with such a request. I would be honored to teach Ning Rongrong. Rongrong looked from her mother to Cheng Xiao, relief and gratitude mingling in her gaze. In that simple exchange, the depth of a mother's love and a daughter's trust spoke more powerfully than any words. Cheng Xiao rose to greet her the moment Ning Fengji stepped into the academy's grand hall. Since you've agreed to come, Miss Ning, we are truly honored to welcome you. He couldn't help but recall his brief meeting with her younger sister, Ning Rongrong. Contrary to the rumors about her being flighty and headstrong, Rongrong had been composed, almost serene. And learning that Ning Fengji was none other than Master Shui Qinghe's teacher made this visit all the more significant. Pausing for a heartbeat, Cheng Xiao's expression grew solemn. Sectmaster Ning, there is something you should know. Just yesterday, the Wuhun Palace launched a full-scale operation against our academy. If you accept our invitation and settle here, you may soon find yourself pitted directly against their forces. I only mention this so you may weigh the dangers before you commit. Ning Fengji offered a calm, reassuring smile. Thank you for your concern, Cheng Xiao. I am well aware that the Wuhun Palace holds deep sway throughout the mainland, but their power is not without limits. I came here because as I believe in the strength and integrity of this academy, and I am prepared to stand by it. With those words, the tension in the hall eased. Cheng Xiao inclined his head, silently grateful, and more determined than ever to prove that their academy could withstand whatever challenges lay ahead. With the Dou imperial family's protection now shielding Seven Stars Academy, no matter how brazen the Wuhun Palace disciples grow, they won't dare foul the academy's peace. And if they ever do, the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect will come to your aid without hesitation, my friend Cheng Xiao. Cheng Xiao looked momentarily taken aback by that guarantee, but a pleased smile soon found its way onto his face. He rose from his chair and inclined his head politely toward Ning Rongrong. In that case, it's my honor to welcome you to Seven Stars Academy, Miss Ning. I'm confident your presence will spark fresh vitality here. Ning Rongrong stood as well, returning his bow with equal courtesy. Business-minded by nature, she recognized there was more to Cheng Xiao than met the eye. The entire continent was on the brink of upheaval, and her sect needed to secure its position among the shifting powers. With the formalities concluded, the group's tone lightened as they chatted. After a few minutes, Shui Qinghe offered a polite smile and slipped out of the conference room. Pardon me, she said, heading for the restroom, and leaving the others to continue their discussions in peace. Cheng Xiao lifted a hand, and a shadow soldier flowed into Shui Qinghe's silhouette. Together, they slipped out of the conference room. From inside, Sword Douluo felt the faint expansion of Shui Qinghe's shadow as he departed, but he shook his head, closed his eyes, and refocused his energy. Once in the corridor, Shui Qinghe cast a casual glance around, then slipped into a concealed alcove. Pressing his palm against the wall, he whispered, "Tell that woman I hold a stake in this academy. If she dares to return, she'll regret it. Let her know I won't be so cooperative next time." The air before him rippled, and a wrinkled face shrouded in darkness emerged. The elderly figure bowed respectfully, then dissolved back into the shadows. As the darkness faded, a cool smile curved Shui Qinghei's lips. He took a private pleasure in imagining the woman's shriveled expression. Satisfied, he turned and re-entered the conference room, unaware that the shadow soldier embedded in him had caught every word. A few days later, Wuhun Palace, Spirit Hall. Bibi Dong stood at the center of the grand chamber, her eyes burning with cold fury as they swept over the two elders kneeling before her. In her hand she cradled the crumpled report that bore the results of their mission. "Elder Ju, Elder Tong," she said, voice low and cutting. "This is how you carried out my orders, one of you at spirit rank 96, the other at 95, and yet between you, you couldn't even capture a spirit rank 91 titled Douluo? Well done, truly." Gui Douluo, one of the kneeling elders, swallowed hard. He bowed his head and spoke with forced calm. "Your Holiness, we misjudged Lord Dugubo's condition. It seems the antidote he took not only reversed the poison's effects, but strengthened his physical prowess, and his mastery of toxic arts has grown far beyond what we expected. We had no way to contain him." Bibi Dong's lips curled in disdain. "What a waste of talent," she snapped. "You sent two of our finest Douluo to finish the job, yet one of you ends up comatose from his venom, and the other barely escapes with grievous wounds to his arms. Explain how that constitutes success." The hall fell silent as the two elders exchanged nervous glances, awaiting their mistress's verdict on this disastrous failure. Bibi Dong's gaze was ice as she looked down at the two half-kneeling Douluos before her. "You heard me," she snapped. "Back to Wuhun Palace with the poison. Ghost Douluo, Chrysanthemum Douluo, do I have to spell out exactly what I expect of you?" For a long, tense moment, neither dared meet her eyes. Pathetic waste of space. Bibi Dong rose to her full height, her impatience flaring. She waved them away with a single sharp motion. "Get out, both of you. If I ever have to see your useless faces again, I'd sooner gouge my own eyes out in disgust." The two subordinates trembled, barely managing a "Yes, Your Majesty," before vanishing from the hall so swiftly they seemed to dissolve into mist. At last, alone, Bibi Dong's attention settled on the sealed envelope pressed in her hand. Almost instantly, a biting cold crept through the chamber. Frost dusted the marble floor. The very air grew heavy and brittle with tension. Heat flared in her cheeks. Her claws of power itched to strike. She stared at that envelope as if it had personally insulted her. "Who do they think they are?" she hissed, squeezing it until her knuckles whitened. "Arrogant enough to give me orders." Bibi Dong's hands shook as she read the letter from Qian Renshui a second time. In it, her daughter demanded that she stop meddling in her affairs, and even threatened her. If Bibi Dong dared send anyone to obstruct her again, Qian Renshui warned, she would refuse to cooperate in any of her actions. A mother's heart never truly hardens, no matter how rebellious her child. Anger flared in Bibi Dong's chest so violently that if Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo hadn't been by her side earlier, she would have unleashed her fury outright. Now, alone in the grand hall of the Pope's palace, he felt the full force of her indignation and the sting of rejection. She paced back and forth, muttering threats she knew she could never carry out against her own flesh and blood. Blood was thicker than water, she reminded herself, yet her daughter's coldness cut deeper than any blade. Their already fraught relationship made the betrayal feel all the more personal. At last, her strength gave out. Bibi Dong sank into the high-backed chair behind the marble dais as though the wind had been knocked from her. Staring dumbly at the soaring dome overhead, she let out a long, anguished sigh. Her words trailed off into helpless whispers. Outside the palace gates, the knights on guard shifted uncomfortably. Not since the Pope himself had passed through had they witnessed such a display of raw, unbridled emotion, and they were certain they'd never want to again. They almost charged in, convinced the Pope was under attack. Fortunately, Elder Ghost and Elder Ju stopped them before they left, warning in no uncertain terms, whatever they heard, they must not enter or ask questions. His Holiness was in a white-hot rage, and bursting in now would be like facing down the barrel of a gun. There'd be no reasoning with him. It's decided. Tomorrow's the explosion. Chapter 162, The Unruly Little White Mouse. The main hall of Qibao Glazed Sect was quiet, except for the soft glow of lanterns reflecting off polished marble floors. At the northern end, facing south, stood a grand rosewood throne carved with lotus petals. Embedded in its high back was a single, enormous blue gemstone that pulsed with a gentle warmth. Ning Fengji sat upon it like royalty. Two white-haired elders, one on each side, bowed slightly in his presence. Douluo Gurong cleared his throat, his expression grave. Fengji, this isn't like you. You agreed to the Seven-Star Academy's proposal almost immediately. Isn't that far too hasty? Ning Fengji's lips curved into a faint, confident smile. Uncle Gu, you really think I acted rashly? In truth, I sent Rongrong to Seven-Star Academy precisely for this reason. No matter how events unfold, our Qibao glazed sect risks very little and stands to gain much. He leaned forward, steepling his fingers. And tell me, have you not found this young Cheng Xiao extraordinary? He's barely out of adolescence, yet his power rivals full-fledged Douluo's. Even more astonishing, his martial spirit is one of the rarest on the continent. Gurong's brow lifted. Ning Fengji continued, let us watch carefully. This so-called little white mouse may prove more unruly and more valuable than anyone expected. Silence fell over the hall as the three men contemplated the ripples Ning Fengji's decision might send through the martial world. I believe it won't be long before Cheng Xiao's name is known throughout the Soul Master world, Ning Fengji said, her voice steady as she looked across the hall. Douluo Gurong's brow furrowed. He leaned forward, voice low. Are you that certain? The Wuhan Palace isn't a charity. The moment they sense a prodigy, they'll move in. Why would they ignore someone like him? Ning Fengji gave a slow, confident smile. Precisely because of that, you must consider his hidden ties to Wuhan Palace. I suspect those connections run deeper than we realize. If Rongrong can cultivate him, bring him into the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect as an ally, then Wuhan Palace will think twice before making any open move against us. Gurong's lips pressed into a thin line. He cared for the sect's honor more than politics, and this was pure calculation. You always see everything in terms of advantage, he said quietly. Ning Fengji's gaze turned distant, as though weighing the future. It's called strategy. In this world of power and alliances, sentiment is a luxury we cannot afford. She swept one hand toward the hall's carved pillars. Rongrong is my daughter. I love her with all my heart. But ultimately, she will inherit the leadership of our sect. It is my responsibility to ensure that her tenure begins from a position of strength and security. Gurong remained silent. He knew the truth in her words, even if his heart resisted the cold logic. As long as Ning Fengji held the reins, the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect would continue to maneuver in the shadows, securing its place among the great powers of the Soul Master world. By then, without a powerful ally like Qibao Lulizong backing him, he won't last long on the Douluo Continent. Fengji, Uncle Gu said, brow furrowed, are you absolutely certain you won't reconsider? This young man's strength and character are beyond question, but does Rongrong truly feel the same? It just seems far too grand, elevating him to become the future grandson-in-law of our Qibao Glazed sect. Ning Fengji smiled softly. Uncle Gu, you know there are some things in life you can't leave to chance. I may not control everything, but I can make the choices that matter. When the moment is right, I'll step in, and perhaps he'll repay us 100-fold. He paused and shook his head lightly. No matter how extraordinary he grows, he's still just a child. A child must be guided like a child. And don't forget, while my daughter Rongrong might not be the most prodigious talent in the world, her beauty and innate gifts are undeniable. She lacks for nothing. Turning thoughtful, he added, but for now, it's far too early to draw any conclusions. Let's wait and see, Douluo rumbled, folding his bony arms. Over the past few years, Cheng Xiao's made remarkable progress. If he's truly worthy of becoming the grandson-in-law of our Qibao Glazed sect, time will prove it. Douluo chuckled. All right, now that you've said your piece, I won't argue further. He waved a dismissive hand. Old Bone, Cheng Xiao is a fine young man, and his power is nothing to scoff at. Don't be so gloomy. If he really does marry Rongrong, then even if we two old geezers kick the bucket tomorrow, we'll know she's safe and sound. Douluo offered a wry grin. You always know how to cheer me up. He paused, then added, by the way, Fengji, did you hear? The Li clan in Tiando City has packed up and left. Their head, Li Tan, was reportedly killed. At the mention of Li Tan's death, Bone Douluo's expression turned grave. An 86th rank Douluo vanishing that suddenly in Tiando City, that's no small thing. We can't just ignore it. Who's to say the same fate won't befall one of us? Ning Fengji frowned thoughtfully. I've heard the rumors, he admitted. Still, I don't believe there's any cause for alarm. Something about this just doesn't sit right with me, but I doubt it signals a wider threat. The three martial soul masters fell silent, each lost in his own thoughts as the wind stirred among the ancient pines surrounding the sect's courtyard. Whatever lay ahead, be it the forging of a powerful alliance through marriage or the shadow of an unseen enemy, they would face it together. Ning Fengji frowned as he studied the reports. If Wuhun Temple were truly behind this, the Li clan would have fallen long ago. What puzzles me is Titan's death. No one with his reputation should be taken out so swiftly. At his side, the sword Douluo, Jian, nodded in agreement. Titan was as formidable as any titled Douluo, with defenses few could breach. Even a relentless assault would take more than 10 moves to kill him, and that's not accounting for his escape attempts in a life-or-death struggle. He tapped the hilt of his sword. Those 10 moves include every evasive maneuver he could muster. Think about it. The continent's top offensive Douluo, a 96th-level powerhouse against an 86th-level contradiction. You don't eliminate such an opponent in a heartbeat. Ning Fengji sighed, glancing at Uncle Jian and Uncle Gu. Let's steer clear of another family's feud for now. The Soul Master world across both empires has been unnaturally quiet these past 20 years. Even as one of the big three sects, I can't shake this sense of foreboding. I predict that within a few years, the world of Soul Masters will face earth-shaking changes, Ning Fengji said quietly. Sword Douluo glanced at Bone Douluo and then back at their master. They say the three great sects are bound by a single spirit mark, he ventured. When that time comes, won't that bond let you surge ahead of every other spirit master? We understand, Bone Douluo added, nodding in unison with Sword Douluo. Having trained under Master Ning for so long, they knew him well enough to respect the thoughts he chose not to voice. Some words, they realized, were better left unspoken. Deep in the Stardew Forest, Tongsan's soul power had improved by leaps and bounds. No sooner had he reached level 40 than he commissioned the Golden Iron Triangle to lead him into the heart of the largest soul beast territory. Now, before him lay several pale, light-type soul beasts. Their bodies collapsed in pools of blood, each one already slain by Tongsan's hand. In the thin dawn mist, the group arrived at the next plateau, where dozens of soul beasts milled about. Most were plant types, vines coiling like serpents, blossoms glowing faintly in the half-light. Only one creature stood apart, a white tiger, its martial spirit uncannily similar to Daimubai's, yet noticeably less powerful than the oat, her light attribute beasts here. The master let his gaze linger on the tiger, then turned toward a radiant flower nestled among thorny shrubs. Xiao-san, for your 4th soul ring, I recommend this radiant flower, he said. It has reached roughly 6,000 years of cultivation, well within your capacity to absorb. Xiao-san leaned forward as the master continued. Although this ring's elemental attribute differs from those you've already taken, it's still a plant-type soul beast. By claiming its ring, your blue-silver grass will not only grow tougher, but will also grant you a new light attribute skill, either an entangling technique or a restorative soul ability. Soon, your vines will be able both to ensnare enemies and to heal injuries. At that level, no soul master of equal rank could break free from your grasp. The master paused, offering Xiao-san a steady smile. And most importantly, you'll add the light attribute to your blue-silver grass, giving you far greater versatility in battle. Xiao-san's heart thrummed with excitement. He squared his shoulders, prepared to face the radiant flower and claim his 4th soul ring. Simplifying Cheng Xiao's shadows is child's play. As Master explained the theory, his eyes never left Tang-san. He noted with growing irritation that his usually obedient disciple was hesitating. In his own mind, no one could surpass him in theory, yet here, Tang-san was, questioning himself. The thought was an affront to his pride. Just as Master readied himself to demonstrate an attack, Tang-san shook his head, his expression steely. Master, please indulge me once, he said earnestly. May I choose my 4th spirit ring on my own? Master froze, unexpectedly taken aback by the request. Chapter 163. Tongsan's Choice. Tongsan understood better than anyone how critical the fourth spirit ring was for a spirit master. Once he selected it, his path forward would be essentially sealed. There would be no turning back. His decision now would shape his entire future. In recent days, he had sensed something new stirring within him, an inner power reminiscent of the Xuantian technique, yet somehow even stronger at his current level. That discovery was fascinating, but not what occupied his mind most. What truly preoccupied him were the fleeting glimpses of a possible future, vague, dreamlike visions that nonetheless felt astonishingly real. Determined to become exactly the person he had seen in those visions, Tongsan resolved to push his potential to the absolute limit. He would not allow himself to fall short of the strength hinted at by those memory fragments. He reminded himself of the 6,000-year-old light plant soul beast standing before him. According to its memories, it had once absorbed a 10,000-year-old spirit ring and grown even more formidable. If such a monumental achievement was within reach for a soul beast, why shouldn't he attempt it as well? "Xiao-san, what are you hesitating for?" someone called, breaking through his thoughts. Tongsan inhaled deeply, glanced at the swirling spirit rings overhead, and steeled himself for the choice that would define his destiny. "You know my theories have never been wrong." Before Flender and Liu Erlong could even open their mouths, the master had already swept across the training ground and clasped Tongsan's shoulder. Glancing over Tongsan's shoulder with a steely gaze, he continued, "Xiao-san, have you forgotten how you got to this point? Without my guidance, you'd still be nothing more than a blue-silver grass soul master, clueless about your own potential. And now, after a few trivial missteps, you dare to question my methods." He leaned in, voice low and sharp. "You were the one who asked me which light attribute soul beast could defeat Cheng Xiao. So tell me, what do you think you're doing now?" Tongsan looked up, surprised by this stern, almost unforgiving side of his mentor. He bowed his head, mind racing for the right words. After a long moment, he lifted his gaze and spoke evenly. "Master, please forgive me. I never meant to doubt your theory. I only hoped that by choosing a 10,000-year-old light attribute soul beast, I could become stronger, faster." 10,000 years? Flender and Liu Erlong cried out in unison, their eyes wide with shock. The master's face darkened further as he demanded, "Xiao-san, then answer me. How old does the fourth soul ring need to be?" Tongsan lifted his gaze to the old man before him. "Master, according to your own martial spirit theory, the absorption period for a fourth spirit ring should be around 5,000 years, but I want to try it now." "Nonsense." Master Wushan's voice cracked with anger. "Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to force the absorption across multiple centuries? If anything happens to you, what excuse will I give your father? You are my only disciple, my living proof to the world that blue-silver grass can be powerful. Without my explicit permission and without your father's blessing, you must not risk your life. Is that clear?" His words sounded harsh, but beneath the fury, Tongsan detected genuine fear and concern. He nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. As his soul power grew and he claimed more spirit rings, the inherent weakness of his blue-silver grass spirit had become ever more glaring and intolerable. If not for the lingering echoes of a distant memory in his mind, he might have long since given up on this spirit. No more. He would shatter the limits. That night, when Master Wushan lay asleep, Tongsan crept into the cultivation chamber. Moonlight spilled across the smooth stone floor, illuminating the jade basin where the already coalesced third spirit ring hovered, faintly glowing. He took a steadying wreath, recalling lessons the master had drilled into him: control, patience, focus. Then he plunged his spirit energy into the ring. Pain exploded through his soul, as if 1,000 icy daggers sliced him from within. His vision buckled, the world quivered and receded, but he refused to relent. Memories, ancient, vivid, flooded back, training in a world beyond this one, countless battles fought and won. He clung to those memories like a lifeline. Minutes later, a soft chime rang through the chamber. Tongsan collapsed to his knees, sweat and tears mingling on his face. Before him, suspended in the basin's moonlit waters, a new, pale green spirit ring revolved, its glow serene yet potent. He had done it. He had broken the 5,000-year limit and claimed his fourth ring. Exhausted but exhilarated, Tang San allowed himself the smallest of smiles. This was only the beginning. His soul waited to see how far he could truly go. Dai Mubai's white tiger spirit and Ma Hongjun's phoenix spirit only grow stronger with each additional soul ring. And Tang San can feel the gap between them, and his own blue-silver grass widening by the day. He's managed to calm his nerves thanks to the sudden acceleration in his cultivation speed, but he knows full well that speed alone won't catapult him to the top. Without the extraordinary advantages granted by his second life, mastery of the Tang sect's secret techniques and hidden weapons, plus the spirit bones he stumbled across, he would already have been left in the dust. Even his master dismisses hidden weapons as mere trinkets. For a spirit master, true power is everything. That conviction is exactly why his master is so determined to push Tang San to new heights. Yet the facts remain unflinching. Blue-silver grass is a weak spirit, its true bloodline still dormant, and it simply cannot match the strength of more formidable spirits. To overcome that handicap, Tang San has resolved to claim a fourth soul ring, one forged over 10,000 years, to give his martial spirit the breakthrough it desperately needs. Chapter 10: A Reckless Resolve. Tang San stood in the center of the small training courtyard, his gaze unwavering as he addressed his teacher. "This is the only way," he said firmly. "Only by claiming a 10,000-year white tiger spirit ring can I push my power to the next level without leaving gaps in my technique. Master, please help me hunt one down. I've made up my mind to absorb its fourth spirit ring." His teacher, normally calm and unflappable, turned ashen with alarm. "Xiao-san," he cried, "listen to me. If you attempt to absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring before your body is ready, you risk nothing less than a catastrophic explosion, death in the blink of an eye. Do you really want to throw away your life so recklessly?" Tang San shook his head slowly, his expression unyielding. "Master, you haven't forgotten what happened in Stardew Forest, right? When I absorbed the third spirit ring beyond my level, I managed to control it and even took on the attached spirit bone. That success wasn't luck. I've learned how to adapt my body and spirit power." He paused, letting his conviction sink in. "I'm confident I can do the same with a 10,000-year ring. In just half a year, the continent-wide Senior Soul Master Elite Tournament will begin. If I don't break through now, I'll never catch up." His teacher's face twisted with worry and pride. He took a slow step forward and laid a hand on Tang San's shoulder. "You've grown stronger than I ever imagined. Still, the gap between 20,000 and 30,000 years is wide, far wider than between 10 and 20. You must prepare every inch of your spirit bone and flesh for that shock." Tang San nodded, his eyes bright. "I understand. I'll train harder than ever, but in the end, I must take the gamble, or I'll never stand among the top contenders." His master sighed, his stern mask slipping back into place. "Very well, I will aid you in tracking that 10,000-year white tiger. But know this, should you show the slightest sign of losing control, I will not hesitate to intervene. You must master not just power, but restraint." Tang San bowed respectfully. "Thank you, master. I won't let you down." Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows over the courtyard. A fierce determination burned in Tang San's eyes. His destiny was set, and nothing would stop him from seizing the spirit ring that would unlock his next great leap. "As your disciple, I'll prove your theory," Tang San declared. At his words, the master's earlier excitement slowly settled into a calm, studied gaze. He looked deep into Tang San's determined eyes, feeling an unexpected swell of pride. If Tang San's fourth spirit ring truly came from a 10,000-year spirit beast, he would surely dazzle everyone at the upcoming continent-wide Senior Spirit Master Elite Tournament. And as his teacher, who would dare to question him then? At the thought of that triumphant moment, the master's usually stern expression softened. He placed a reassuring hand on Tang San's shoulder and whispered, "Very well. If you are truly resolved, I have no choice but to trust you." Beside them, Grandmaster felt a surge of emotion at Tang San's bold resolve. To have a disciple willing to risk everything on a single chance filled him with pride, but also with worry. No one on all of Douluo Continent had ever acquired a fourth spirit ring before. Should Tang San succeed, their path forward would be clear and unchallenged. Should he fail, the master might not recover. Tang San gave his master a reassuring grin. Don't worry, teacher. The white tiger spirit beast I'm about to hunt will almost certainly yield a spirit bone. With 2 soul bones in hand, Cheng Xiao will have no chance against me. Ho ho, master replied, nodding and signaling to Flanders and Liu Erlong that he approved Tang San's plan. At that moment, the ground trembled, and an enormous white tiger burst into view. Its broad shoulders and gleaming ivory coat were impressive enough, but it was the regal, crown-shaped marking on its forehead that truly stopped them in their tracks. Flanders jumped back, eyes wide. 1,000-year-old white tiger! Xiao-san, you really are the luckiest person alive. A spark of excitement lit Master's face. That must be the very beast we were tracking. Flanders, Erlong, prepare to unleash our martial soul fusion. No sooner had he spoken than a golden magic circle blossomed at their feet. Master's voice thundered across the clearing. Sun and moon radiance, shine forth in golden glory. Chapter 164, Divine Intervention. Though an immortalized white tiger of 10,000 years cultivation is undeniably formidable, age and power have their limits. Thanks to the Golden Iron Triangle's fused 3-in-1 martial soul technique, Tang San's allies could hold their own even against a tidal Douluo, and eventually, their combined might proved too much for the ancient beast. Its final, plaintive roar faded into silence as the white tiger collapsed, slain at last by the 3. Flanders and Liu Erlong gathered the tiger's spirit core and carried it to Tang San, who knelt beside the fallen creature. A pale, otherworldly glow emanated from where the white tiger's life force still clung to the world. Tang San took a steadying breath and looked up at them. Dean Flanders, Aunt Erlong, he said quietly, please guard me. I'm ready to absorb this spirit ring. Flanders exchanged a meaningful glance with Liu Erlong before turning back to Tang San. His voice was grave. Are you absolutely certain, Xiao San? There's still time to back out. Once you take that 10,000-year ring, there's no turning back. Tang San's eyes shone with conviction. I, Tang San, have never regretted a step I've taken. He pressed a hand to his chest, voice firm. If my ambition is worthy, then so is my bloodline. I am the son of Haotian Douluo, and I will seize this opportunity. A small, proud smile curved Flanders's lips as he clasped Tang San's shoulder. Courage and resolve, just as your father would expect. Very well, we'll stand guard. Take all the time you need. With their silent support encircling him, Tang San placed his hand over the fading form of the white tiger's spirit core. A soft cascade of silver light surged upward, weaving into his soul. Outside, the wind stilled, as if the heavens themselves paused to witness this pivotal moment. And within that sacred glow, Tang San prepared to claim the power of a 10,000-year spirit ring and step ever closer to his destiny. In that case, I can only wish you success. Flanders fell silent at Tang San's confident smile, conceding to his plan. With measured steps, Tang San approached the dying 10,000-year-old spirit beast, the white tiger. In one swift motion, the 8-spider lance unfurled behind him and drove its barbed tip clean through the tiger's flank. Like some colossal spider, Tang San immediately began drawing the beast's remaining life force into himself. The lance's unique devouring function siphoned out a surge of raw energy, bolstering Tang San's reserves and tipping the odds in his favor for securing the tiger's soul ring. The weapon slid in without hindrance until only its haft remained visible. A milky white halo of qi pulsed up the lance's shaft and into Tang San's body. The white tiger convulsed violently, its muscles seizing as if crystallizing. Though its amber eyes blazed with fury, the great beast was too weakened to strike back. Tang San steadied his breath. Soon, the final soul ring would be his. Master Li watched Tang San with keen interest. It looks like Xiao San plans to use the 8-spider lance's swallowing ability to siphon off part of the 10,000-year white tiger's energy, he observed. That will make it far easier for him to absorb the next soul ring. Minute by minute, the great white tiger's body grew rigid. Finally, as Tang San withdrew the 8-spider lance, a jet-black spirit ring coalesced atop the tiger's form. With a steady motion, he retracted his lance and settled cross-legged on the ground. Tang San opened his right palm, where a swirl of blue-purple light appeared. Summoning spirit blue-silver grass, he called forth his spirit beast companion. The The dark ring hovered in midair before sliding neatly onto blue-silver grass's stem. The pent-up energy instantly found release, rushing into Tang San's body in a roaring tide. To an onlooker, it seemed like the sea pouring into a river's mouth, an ocean of power flowing through him. Watching the entire process, the members of the Golden Iron Triangle exchanged seed glances. Without a doubt, Tang San was the most extraordinary spirit master any of them had ever witnessed. Taking on the fourth 10,000-year spirit ring was a gamble even someone as prodigious as Cheng Xiao wouldn't attempt. If Tang San managed to absorb it successfully, it would mark an extraordinary breakthrough, truly unprecedented. Yet Tang San hadn't endured the trials of ice and fire. Could his body withstand the power of another 10,000-year ring in his current state? The instant the Black Soul Ring's energy poured into him, the chamber's lights flickered and dimmed. Tang San felt as if his body would shatter from the inside out. A frigid corrosion swept through his spiritual world, and the spectral image of the white tiger prowled before him, snarling in silent warning. Seated cross-legged, Tang San drew in a shuddering breath, his brows knitting together. His lips pressed into a firm line as his limbs trembled. Crimson droplets welled at his 7 orifices, veins standing out beneath his skin, and even the blue-silver grass cradled in his palm began to fray at the edges. "Xiao San!" Master Dai's heart lurched at the sight. He darted forward 2 steps, concern etched on his face. "Don't!" But beside him, Xiao Gang quietly laid a hand on Dai's arm. "Don't disturb him," he cautioned. "If he breaks through, he must do it on his own." Their voices hung in the air as Tang San fought against the overwhelming chill. Every fiber of his being strained under the Black Soul Ring's assault, yet deep within, his spirit flared with defiance. If he could endure this trial, he would stand on the brink of a power no one had ever claimed. And so, with gritted teeth and unyielding will, Tang San welcomed the pain and the promise of what was to come. Whether Tang San succeeds or not, the choice is his. If we force ourselves in now, he might literally explode. Flanders gripped Master Xiao Gang's arm and whispered urgently, "What do we do? Are we just going to stand by and watch him fail?" Master Xiao Gang's shoulders sagged as he sank to his knees, burying his face in his hands and weeping bitterly. For a moment, it seemed as if all hope was lost. Then, without warning, a golden trident sigil flared upon Tang San's brow. A brilliant blue and gold light radiated from his entire body, and he let out a primal scream that echoed off the chamber walls. In an instant, the convulsions that had racked Tang San's form stilled. His features relaxed, and the trident mark faded away as quietly as it had appeared. Master Xiao Gang stared in awe. The sacred aura of that light. Could Tang San have drawn on more than just Hauten Douluo's power? Was there another guardian spirit standing with him? Flanders gave Master Xiao Gang an encouraging pat on the shoulder. "Don't worry, my friend. Tang San has absorbed it successfully. The most dangerous phase is over. Now he simply needs to consolidate the soul power he's awakened. Haotian Douluo's gene inheritance truly is something else." The two watched in silence as Tang San rose. Every sign of his earlier torment vanished, proof that he had triumphed over death itself. This boy truly performed a miracle. Indeed he did. The master's eyes softened as he regarded Tang San with unmistakable relief. The moon hung like a silver plate in a sky spangled with stars, and the star forest was utterly still. When Tang San roused himself, he saw the golden triangle tending the campfire. The moment the master caught sight of him awake, he called out with genuine happiness, "Xiao San, how do you feel?" Tang San shook his head, as if clearing the last vestiges of sleep, then rose to his feet. A violet flicker lit up his eyes, and in that instant 4 soul rings materialized around his spirit, 2 golden, 1 purple, and 1 ink black. The fourth, an illustrious 10,000-year soul ring, marked a true qualitative leap in his cultivation, and a serene new strength seemed to radiate from his very being. Seeing no pain in Tang San's expression, the master raised a hand and beckoned him to release his martial soul. Years of apprenticeship made the command unnecessary. Tang San already understood. He drew in a breath, channeled his soul power, and let it flow outward. A brilliant blue-white light burst forth, and from the clearing at his feet, the blue-silver grass unfurled in a rapid bloom. Each slender stalk shimmered with delicate silver veins, dancing upward in the firelight as Tang San's reborn spirit pulsed with renewed vigor. Xiao San, what exactly does your fourth soul skill do? Show us, Master ordered, his eyes glittering as he studied the blue-silver grass Tang San held. Tang San inclined his head. Certainly, teacher. No sooner had he spoken than the 10th ring soul skill, black as midnight, flared to life on his back. An unseen force pulsed outward, pressing so heavily on the ground that Master stumbled back a few steps, involuntarily awed by its solemn power. In an instant, dozens of stalks of luminous blue-silver grass erupted from the earth in a perfect circle around the trio. Without a sound, the blades shot upward and wove together overhead, forming a vast, glimmering cage. Because the grass grew in absolute silence, Flanders and Luerlong had barely time to react before they found themselves trapped inside the leafy prison. Tang San's tone remained calm as he explained, "This is my fourth soul skill, Silver Cage. In any light, blue-silver grass becomes immensely tougher and grows at an accelerated rate. Within seconds, it can entangle and hold even the strongest opponents. Yes, once you master the light attribute, you'll have the power to defeat Cheng Xiao." The master inclined his head, acknowledging Tang San's acquisition of his fourth soul skill. Nearby, Flanders added, "Now that he's claimed the fourth soul ring, we should depart at once." Wait a moment, Dean. Tang San held up a hand and motioned toward the carcass of the 10,000-year-old white tiger soul beast. Curious gazes followed as he withdrew a slender soul-forged blade from his ring. With a single precise cut, he severed the tiger's skull. Immediately, a spectral bone suffused with pure white light emerged from the cleft. As Tang San lifted the bone, a thrill of unfamiliar power coursed through him, exactly the light attribute energy he needed to stand against Cheng Xiao. A soul bone. The master's eyes widened in astonishment as he recognized the precious artifact in Tang San's hand. Chapter 165. An Unexpected Discovery on the Douluo Continent. Master's eyes widened as he stared at the glowing white soul bone in Tang San's hand, his voice shaking with excitement. "Xiao-san, bring it here. Let me see it." Tang San didn't hesitate. He placed the rare artifact firmly into his master's trembling grasp. As the old martial artist cradled the bone, his heartbeat thundered in his ears. Though he had devoted his life to the study of martial arts, and even spent years within the ranks of the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex clan, he had never once come so close to a genuine soul bone. The power of these bones scales directly with their age. A 1,000-year soul bone yields the same strength as a 1,000-year soul ring, and so on. Master's breath caught as he realized the true magnitude of what he held. If Tang San could successfully absorb this 10,000-year-old soul bone, it would grant him power equivalent to a 10,000-year soul ring skill. Such a leap in strength would be nothing short of extraordinary. Flanders and Liu Erlong couldn't tear their eyes away from the faintly glowing soul bone in the master's hand. To any soul master, a soul bone is the ultimate prize. Absorbing even a single one can raise your power to an entirely new level. After watching it pulse with energy for a moment, the master's lips curved into an amused smile. "Ursan," he said, using his disciple's familiar name, "absorb this head soul bone. When the Continental Senior Soul Master Elite Tournament kicks off in 6 months, you'll crush Cheng Xiao and settle the score once and for all." He chuckled and shook his head. Master and disciple have always had a knack for luck, but this takes the cake. A random 10,000-year-old soul beast appears, and it leaves behind a genuine 10,000-year-old head soul bone, rare beyond belief. With a dramatic sigh, he handed the relic back to Tang San. His eyes gleamed with pride and anticipation. He couldn't wait to see his disciple step onto the world stage and prove that their bond and his teachings were more than justified. Tang San turned the small, ivory-colored bone over in his hand, studying the faint glow pulsing along its surface. "Master," he asked, "what exactly is the function of this head soul bone?" His teacher leaned in, closing his eyes to sense its aura. "From its appearance and the spirit signatures I'm reading, this is a light attribute soul bone with latent spiritual power. Once you absorb it, you should awaken an ice elemental skill that you can channel through your spirit." He opened his eyes. "Moreover, it will strengthen the light aspect of your blue-silver grass. At higher levels, your grass could become so tough it can slice through steel, perhaps even cut down weapons and spirit beasts. Of course, that part is conjecture on my behalf. Tang San nodded, recalling how much sturdier his blue-silver grass had become after he absorbed the white tiger's soul ring. It no longer snapped at the slightest strain, a clear sign of improvement. Xiao San, his master prompted gently, absorb the soul bone quickly. We'll protect you. Understood. Tang San steeled himself, lifted the pale bone above his head, and felt its soft radiance awaken. A milky white light began to swirl from the bone, casting ghostly shadows across his face as he prepared to fuse its power with his own spirit. A soft pop echoed through the chamber, and the entire soul bone shivered into a wisp of white vapor that rushed straight into Tang San's mind. The sudden influx of power left him momentarily dazed. Instantly, the three masters stepped back, forming a protective triangle around him. Their own soul power flared as they stood on alert, eyes scanning every shadow in case anything went awry. As they watched over him, the faint trident mark reappeared on Tang San's forehead, glowing with a pale golden light. He blinked once, then twice, as if awakening anew. Far above, in the God Realm's Poseidon Hall, a gentle halo of light drifted among wisps of cloud, caressing them like a mother's touch. Though the chamber felt ethereal, its substantial presence was undeniable. Walls of deep ocean blue, pillars carved with swirling waves, and a vaulted ceiling painted with constellations of the sea. Seated on an ocean foam throne was the great sea god himself, robed in white, trimmed with gold. Upon his brow rested a ring-shaped diadem of polished coral, its center set with an aquamarine gem that pulsed with inner light. Boredom lay thick on his features, until the gem flickered. He stirred, head tilting toward the vast pedestal at the hall's core, where Poseidon's trident stood upright, its three prongs glowing with latent power. The sea god's brow creased in sudden interest. Something had shifted in the balance of soul power below, and the awakening trident mark on the boy in the mortal realm was only the beginning. The Poseidon trident quivered on its pedestal, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor that nonetheless set even its master on edge. Poseidon's brow furrowed as he reached out with his divine perception. "Strange, has someone pulled out the trident?" he muttered, but his soul forces confirmed it remained firmly lodged on Douluo's star, untouched. Then why was he sensing a disturbance, and why was that signal echoing back to the star itself? Before he could answer his own questions, the trident stilled as suddenly as it had stirred, its brief agitation vanishing into silence. Poseidon's eyes narrowed. "Something's wrong on Douluo's star," he whispered, rising to his feet. "I must go to Shura's realm and find out exactly what's happening." Under a silvered sky at Shrek Academy, Xiao Wu walked the dew-dampened courtyard, her mind racing. The continent-wide Senior Soul Master Elite Tournament was about to begin, a contest she dared not enter. Yet if she slipped away now, the stranger in the black robe would surely hunt her down. His obsession with her clear sky hammer spirit was no accident. She'd already guessed his purpose. Stay and face him head-on, or flee and risk drawing him into the open. Either choice carried danger, but time was running out, and Xiao Wu knew she had to decide before the first horn sounded. Any seasoned spirit master will tell you there's only one true way to claim a century-old spirit ring: slay the soul beast yourself. Legends do speak of another method, a beast so devoted that it willingly sacrifices its spirit to the master, but such selfless devotion demands an unbreakable bond of love. Without that, the sacrifice simply cannot occur. Now their team, known as the Shrek Seven Devils, found itself fraying at the edges. Ning Rongrong had withdrawn from the academy and vanished. Tensions, already simmering, boiled over. That very morning, Juju Qing and Dai Mubai had come to blows in the training yard. With disputes mounting and unity all but shattered, no one could stand the strain for much longer. Xiao Wu slipped away from the commotion, her footsteps echoing across the stone courtyard. Why not leave, she wondered, twisting the hem of her travel cloak between her fingers. She'd spent so many years living among humans. She had precious memories with Cheng Xiao. Perhaps her true home was back in the Stardew Forest. She was so lost in thought that she never saw him, a lone figure in a black robe, hidden beneath the gnarled branches of an ancient pine. Only when his voice, soft yet carrying, called out did she pause. "I have to say," he murmured, stepping forward into the light, "you're remarkably brave." A newly awakened soul beast, fresh from its transformation, has the audacity to cross into the human realm. At that moment, a commanding voice, brimming with power, echoed in Xiaowu's ears. "It's you!" She skidded to a halt, a chill lighting up her eyes as her soul power surged to its peak. Before her stood a man in flowing black robes, his presence radiating authority and strength. "I didn't come here for you," Xiaowu shot back, her tone sharp with sarcasm. "Now you've just got to kill me, right?" "You've certainly grown bold since arriving in this world," the man said, coolly. His immense soul aura tightened around Xiaowu, pinning her in place. "It seems you already know who I am." "Of course I do," she replied without hesitation. "Your martial spirit is the Clear Sky Hammer. Across the entire continent, who else but the Clear Sky sect could wield it?" The black-robed man's expression darkened. He fell silent for a heartbeat, then muttered under his breath, "Haochin sect, Clear Sky Hammer." His softly spoken words confirmed what Xiaowu had already guessed. The air between them crackled with tension as their soul powers clashed invisibly, each waiting to see who would make the next move. Tang Hao had assumed Xiaowu recognized him by sight, but in truth it was the gleam of the Clear Sky Hammer that gave him away. He realized, too late, that he'd underestimated her. He hadn't wanted to come here. Ever since the battle with the 200,000-year soul beasts in the forest, his old wound had never fully healed. It sapped his strength so severely that if he faced those beasts again, he might not survive. Xiaowu's eyes were ice. "Who are you? I thought the Haochin sect had vanished from the world." "It matters little who I am. What matters is that you remain right here." Tang Hao flicked a finger languidly in her direction. "Try to leave, and I'll take you prisoner until the time is right. Then I'll kill you and claim your soul ring and soul bones." He met her gaze evenly. "I'm not bluffing. Remember Stardew Forest? I went to great lengths to hunt you down, only for you to slip through my fingers. All that effort wasted, so don't test me again." Chapter 166. I Believe in You. "If you meant to kill me," Xiaowu said, her gaze locked on Tang Hao, "you'd have done it already. Instead, you brought me here into human society. What's your game?" Tang Hao's lips curved into a cold smile. He leaned back as though savoring her confusion. "Game? From a soul master's standpoint, the usual play is to imprison you until you've outlived your usefulness, then kill you, absorb your soul rings and bones. That's the textbook approach." He paused, eyes glittering with amusement. "But I didn't do that. You're still valuable to me, so I've kept you alive." He stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Little rabbit, do yourself a favor. Stop dreaming beyond your station. I'm always watching you, hidden in the shadows. Remember this, as long as you serve my purpose, you live. The moment you no longer have value, you die. Understood?" With those final words hanging in the air, Tang Hao turned away and vanished without another glance. Silence fell over the empty street. Xiaowu's heart pounded so fiercely she feared it might tear free from her chest. No, she couldn't sit idle, awaiting a death sentence. Drawing in a steadying breath, she forced herself to think clearly. If she didn't act soon, her fate was already sealed, and she refused to give up without a fight. Only by finding a way to save her life could she ever hope to return to the Xingdou Great Forest. Tiando City's 7 Stars Academy lay quiet under the faint fish-belly white light of dawn. Cheng Xiao had risen before the sun and already completed his morning weight training. Now he stood, sweat glistening on his brow, downing water as if he hadn't eaten in days, completely indifferent to the dribbles running down his chin. Yi Lingling watched him from the cool bluestone steps, her chin propped on her palms. She'd never seen anyone push themselves so ruthlessly. It had been just over a week since the Academy's grand opening, an event backed by the royal family that had drawn in dozens of talented students. With fewer than 6 months remaining until the all-continental high-level Soul Master Elite competition, every student was racing against time to hone their abilities. Even Yu Tianheng and the other contenders for the tournament had signed up for Cheng Xiao's extra training. At this moment, they were still out on the track, each clad in a 50-kilogram iron vest, straining through a 10-kilometer run with unwavering determination. The 10-kilometer run should have been a breeze for them, but Douluo had deliberately sealed off their soul power. No shortcuts, no supernatural boosts. They were left to rely purely on muscle and will, and the effect was immediate. This wasn't the easy jog they'd grown used to. By the time they reached the checkpoint, every stride felt heavier than the last. Once they'd gulped down cold water, Cheng Xiao sank onto the ledge beside Ye Lingling. She offered him a towel, brushing back his damp hair and gently wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Now I see why you're leagues ahead of the rest of us," she said quietly. "Training like this, suppressing your soul power and relying only on your body, must be brutal." Cheng Xiao shook his head with a small laugh. "Actually, I'm used to it by now. Physical conditioning is part of my daily routine. This kind of workout feels almost relaxing." He paused, catching his breath. "Give me a good night's sleep, and I'll bounce back to peak form, mind and body completely refreshed." Ye Lingling smiled, intrigued. "You make it sound effortless. Any special recovery secret?" He grinned, reaching for his water bottle. "No secret formula, just rest. Though, if I had a system interface tracking my daily training and showing my progress in real time, I'd be unstoppable." With that, he took a long, satisfying swallow, already looking forward to tomorrow's run. Ye Lingling snorted lightly. "So it's settled, then? The participants have been chosen?" Cheng Xiao nodded. "Yes, Ning Rongrong is on our team, too. I never got the chance to properly thank her for what she did last time. Honestly, I didn't expect she'd end up as my teammate." Ye Lingling's lips curved into a smile as she remembered the showdown between Huangdo and Shrek Academy. In that fight, their opponents kept targeting an auxiliary soulmaster, and Ning Rongrong couldn't stand by and watch. She deployed the Seven Treasures glazed tower to amplify her strength and turn the tide of the battle. Ye Lingling had been thoroughly impressed by her courage and resourcefulness. "There's always a first time," Cheng Xiao said with a grin. He glanced at their other teammates, who were still sprawled on the ground, drenched in sweat after an exhausting weight training session. Their chests heaved as they tried to catch their breath. Ye Lingling laughed softly. "They hung in there, didn't they? That's encouraging." "Yeah, you've got to treat them. Otherwise they won't be able to get up at all," Cheng Xiao said with a grin. "I'm heading back for a quick shower. See you in the cafeteria later." "Okay," Ye Lingling replied, smiling. "See you there." "Boss, do you really think Cheng Xiao's training regimen is something a normal human could handle?" Yufeng complained as he chewed on a steamed bun and sipped his meat porridge. "Yufeng, enough with the whining. Have you even finished it yet?" The boss, Yu Tianheng, replied without looking up from his own breakfast. Oslo rolled his eyes at Yufeng's petulance. He stole a glance at the girl sitting alone at the next table. "By the way, should we invite Ning Rongrong to join us?" he asked Yu Tianheng. Yu Tianheng barely nodded. "No need. Someone will be with her soon." He returned his full attention to the steaming bowl in front of him, discovering in awe just how good meat porridge could taste. Oslo scratched his head in confusion. "All right, if you say so." Oslo glanced over at Ning Rongrong again and noticed three familiar figures slipping into the seats beside her: Cheng Xiao, Ye Lingling, and Du Guyan. He shook his head with a small smile. "I didn't expect her to make friends this quickly," he muttered before returning his attention to his lunch. Ning Rongrong's heart skipped a beat when she looked up and saw them all. Her cheeks warmed, and she dropped her gaze, fingers fidgeting at her bowl. Cheng Xiao leaned in with a teasing grin. "What's the matter, Miss Ning? Still feeling a bit nervous?" On her other side, Ye Lingling offered a warm smile. "Welcome to the team, Rongrong, and thank you again for helping me earlier." Ning Rongrong blinked in surprise. "That was you?" she whispered. Ye Lingling laughed softly. "Yes, that veil you saw me in, I don't need it anymore, so I took it off." She cast a quick, amused look toward the rest of the team across the hall, who were busy practicing their formations, and let out a soft chuckle. Du Guyan reached over and gave Ning Rongrong's hand a gentle squeeze. Relief washed over Ning Rongrong, and she managed a small, sincere smile. "I really envy how close you all are," she admitted. "Don't be jealous. Very soon you'll be one of us," Du Guyan said, with a teasing smile at Ning Rongrong. Then he nodded toward Yu Tianheng, who was busy at the far end of the cafeteria, stirring a bubbling pot. "You mentioned you had a gift for Rongrong. Now's the time. Give it to her." "A gift for me?" Ning Rongrong's eyes widened in surprise. She shook her head, about to decline, but before she could speak, Ye Lingling's soft voice floated over. Accept it, Rongrong. This gift, perhaps it can help your martial spirit break its limits. Break through my martial spirit's ceiling? Ning Rongrong echoed, utterly bewildered. She'd never heard of anything that could shatter a martial spirit's constraints. Was it some kind of miraculous pill? Yu Tianheng stepped forward and offered her a small, ornate box. Inside lay a single, iridescent bloom. This is the Douluo tulip, he explained. Later, I'll show you how to prepare it. Follow the method exactly when you return to your room. You may experience unexpected results. Except for the three of them and Ted. The cafeteria was deserted. Ning Rongrong stared at the delicate flower. Its petals glimmered like morning dew on moonlight. Heart-pounding, she lifted it gently, trembling with both awe and hopeful anticipation. Ning Rongrong had never laid eyes on fairy grass this potent before. It shimmered with an otherworldly glow in her palm, and for a moment she was too awed to speak. Cheng Xiao offered her a warm smile. No thanks are necessary, and if you'd like, 7-Star Academy would be honored to count you among its students. Rongrong carefully cupped the Douluo tulip in both hands, breathing in its faint, sweet scent. Thank you. I'll head back and begin absorbing its energy right away. See you soon. With a polite nod, she rose and slipped out of the cafeteria's open doorway. Duguyan watched her go, frowning. He's really something, handing over Grandmaster's fairy grass to someone he just met. Yi Lingling chuckled and gave Yanjiang a light tap on the arm. Come on, you can't blame him. As captain, Cheng Xiao has a responsibility to the team. Duguyan threw up her hands in mock exasperation. You little devil, that tulip can help someone break through a martial limitation. Why not let Lingling have it instead? How much longer? Ye Lingling pressed, her gaze searching Cheng Xiao's face. He sighed, frowning. Your soul martial arts has its limits. She bit her lip. I know, but I can't let Lingling miss this chance. Cheng Xiao shook his head firmly. I understand what this flower is supposed to do. In the past, soul masters of the Qibao Glazed Pagoda who took it broke through to the 9 pagoda level, but I don't know how it will affect you personally. Ye Lingling folded her arms, brow furrowing. If the effects were all positive, this wouldn't be an issue, but what if there are side effects? He met her eyes with determined calm. I'm not willing to take that risk. Even if we can't solve it right now, that doesn't mean we never will. When the time comes, I'll find a way to protect you. Her tension melted into a gentle smile. I trust you, she whispered. Cheng Xiao nodded, relief softening his features. They stood together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. Chapter 167, Visiting Relatives. After breakfast, Cheng Xiao laid out his next move. He and Dugu Bo had just finished discussing life after the academy, and now it was time to head home. He'd been away too long and overdue for a visit with his grandfather. You really are a filial grandson, Dugu Bo said, his tone light but warm. With a practiced gesture, he produced a small jade-green vial from the folds of his robe. Here, these are the latest pills I've refined. Give them to your grandfather once you return. 1 dose should buy him at least 5 more years of life. Cheng Xiao took the vial, studying the liquid inside. You still refine this? He asked, surprised. Dugu Bo chuckled, tapping his nose. You don't know half of what I'm capable of. Just so you're aware, these pills are formulated for ordinary cultivators. They won't have nearly as strong an effect on soul masters. Good to know, Cheng Xiao replied, slipping the vial into his soul guide. He glanced toward the exit. Aren't you headed off to visit your own family? Let's go. Dugu Bo waved a hand, a trace of impatience in his eyes. Lead the way, then. Thanks, old poisoner, Cheng Xiao said with a grin, adopting Dugu Bo's favorite nickname for him. With that, they strode out of the academy gates side by side, the morning sun lighting the path ahead. Just as Cheng Xiao turned to leave, Dugu Bo's impatience melted away. Stroking his chin, he grinned. You might think this pill was whipped up on a whim, he began, but I made it just for you. At first, I knew nothing of your past, so I slipped someone some coin to look into it. That's how I learned about your grandfather in the countryside. Over the last few weeks, whenever I had a free moment, I perfected this formula. When I heard you'd be heading home, I knew it was the perfect time to hand it over. From the folds of his robe, He produced a small jade box and pressed it into Cheng Xiao's hand. Consider it a little safeguard for your journey and as thanks for your trust. Cheng Xiao bowed, genuine surprise and gratitude mingling on his face. Thank you, Senior Dugu. He stepped through the academy gates and came to an abrupt halt. Two familiar figures stood waiting just beyond, Ye Lingling and Dugu Yan, arms crossed and brows furrowed. Cheng Xiao blinked in confusion. Sister Yanzi, Lingling, what are you two doing here? Ye Lingling let out an indignant huff, but it was Dugu Yan who spoke, her tone brisk. We came to see you off, she said. Honestly, Cheng Xiao, you can't even manage a farewell message before disappearing? That's rude. Cheng Xiao's cheeks warmed. He scratched the back of his head. I didn't think. Next time, think, Dugu Yan cut in, though the very corner of her mouth threatened a smile. She glanced at Lingling. Shall we get going? Yi Lingling grunted assent, cast one last stern look at Cheng Xiao, and then the two senior sisters disappeared into the milling crowd. Standing alone in the late afternoon light, Cheng Xiao opened the jade box. As the scent of the pill's herbs drifted up, he realized his trip home might be more eventful and more meaningful than he'd ever expected. Friends? Yi Lingling lifted an incredulous brow. Don't be absurd. Cheng Xiao waved her off. The competition isn't for another 6 months. I just wanted everyone to have plenty of time to train. That's why I kept it quiet. Dugu Yan gave Lingling a playful shove. Come on, let her tag along. Even the strongest need backup sometimes. Cheng Xiao paused. I don't mind, but are you really sure you want to come? My hometown is remote. Before he could say more, Ye Lingling's voice rang out. I'll go. Cheng Xiao hesitated for a heartbeat, then smiled. All right, then. You're welcome to join. Perfect, Dugu Yan said, grinning. Let's get moving. With that, Cheng Xiao closed his eyes and murmured an incantation. A shadow shimmer passed through the air, and in moments the ground shook beneath them as Nash, the immense shadow-armored dragon of the Soldier Legion, materialized. Its scales glinted like polished obsidian, and its wings alone blotted out half the sky. Holy! Dugu Yan's eyes went wide. She sank onto her heels, staring up at the colossal beast. It was one thing to hear about Nash's size. It was quite another to stand beneath him. Cheng Xiao caught her elbow to steady her. Don't worry. He's friendly, mostly. Lingling stepped forward, awe and excitement lighting her face. Then let's go. The sooner we leave, the sooner we'll be back in time to train. With a graceful sweep of his wings, Nash lifted off, carrying the three friends high above Tiando City and on toward Chengjia village. The wind rushed past them, but in their hearts, a new adventure had already begun. When Cheng Xiao summoned Nash's true form, the dragon instantly outgrew its previous 20-meter length. In fact, the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor, already an impressive spirit beast at 20 meters, was nothing more than one foreleg on Nash's colossal frame. Gently lifting Ye Lingling into his arms, Cheng Xiao climbed onto Nash's snout. At his signal, the dragon's mighty wings unfurled, ripping the air apart and hoisting them skyward. From his soul guide, Cheng Xiao produced a detailed map of the Douluo Continent, tracing the 3-day carriage route with a fingertip. With a silent command, Nash angled northward and tore across the land at breathtaking speed. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Nash's enormous silhouette blotted out the sky for a heartbeat. Then he settled with a thunderous thud on a rolling hillside just beyond Chengjia village. Grass and dust flew in every direction as the earth trembled beneath his talons. Cheng Xiao descended and set Ye Lingling down. He stared thoughtfully at the dragon. We'll walk the rest of the way, he said softly. I don't want to frighten grandfather. After all, even veteran soul masters would pale at the sight of Nash's massive form, let alone the ordinary villagers of Chengjia. With that, they turned toward home, leaving the dragon to stand sentinel on the hill. Thank you, Nash, Cheng Xiao murmured as he slid down from the dragon's broad back, his feet landing lightly on the mountaintop's rocky summit. He paused, drinking in the view of the valley below. A wave of nostalgia washed over him. He could almost see his grandfather again, trudging through the underbrush to trap game and bring it home so the young boy would never go hungry. Is this the king's domain? Came a low, resonant voice from behind him. Chiang turned to find Nash half hidden in the drifting mist. The dragon's golden eyes studied the small cluster of huts and tilled fields far below. I expected a grand palace, Nash admitted, but this village is hardly what one imagines for a king's seat. Cheng Xiao let out a soft breath. Our king didn't inherit his crown. He earned every step of his journey. Unlike the Dragon Emperor, who was born with immeasurable power, our sovereign clawed his way upward through hardship and danger. Many faltered along the path. Only the strongest survived. Nash bowed his massive head in solemn agreement. That explains why he triumphed where the Dragon Emperor could not. At Cheng Xiao's side, Ye Lingling watched him with gentle eyes. Cheng Xiao, she said quietly, would you show me the way down? I'd like to see the village up close. He smiled at her. Certainly, if you're willing. Together they began their descent, leaving Nash to gaze down upon the tiny kingdom he had only just discovered. Chengjia village may be far poorer than Shenghun village, but as the saying goes, you live off what's around you. Though the villagers here struggled, the surrounding forests teemed with game, and, with no feral soul beasts to threaten them, anyone without soul power could still carve out a living. Lost in thought, Cheng Xiao reached for Ye Lingling's hand, intent on getting her home as quickly as possible. His unexpected boldness sent a rosy blush to her cheeks, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she squeezed his hand back, matching his determination. Ready? Offering her a reassuring smile. In the next instant, wisps of black smoke curled around Cheng Xiao's feet. With Ye Lingling safely in tow, he vanished in a streak of shadow toward the village at the mountain's base. A few heartbeats later, they reappeared before Chengjia's entrance. The old wooden sign overhead hung by a single rusted nail, its carved characters faded by years of wind and rain. Cheng Xiao let out a rueful sigh. After all this time, nothing here had changed. Cheng Xiao paused at the village entrance, studying the weathered wooden plaque overhead. The faded characters looked just as he remembered from childhood, yet somehow different after all these years away. He ran a hand through his hair and sighed. I wonder how grandfather will react, he said. I hope he doesn't get too carried away. Ye Lingling gave him a gentle smile. Isn't that a good thing? He's been looking forward to your return ever since you left. Back then, you were barely more than a fledgling soul warrior. Cheng Xiao returned her smile with a nod. Yeah, he murmured. After so long on the road, everything here felt both familiar and new. As dusk draped the mountain village in soft twilight, thin spirals of smoke rose from chimneys. Down the cobblestone street, children chased one another in gleeful shouts, their laughter echoing against stone walls. It's good to be back, he admitted. Ye Lingling looped her arm through his. Come on then. If we hurry, we'll catch grandfather's dinner. He's been boasting about his stew all week. Cheng Xiao chuckled, the last of his tension melting away. Together, they strolled into the heart of the village, home at last, guided by fading daylight and the promise of a warm meal. Chapter 168. This is all I want to do. The winding Loess Road kicked up dust that clung stubbornly to their clothes, but returning home made every speck of grime feel like a badge of honor. Since leaving Chengjia village, Cheng Xiao had devoted himself entirely to cultivation, not for glory or power, but so that his grandfather might enjoy a comfortable life without having to toil from dawn to dusk. Though he was not native to this world, he was far from ignorant. He remembered every kindness shown and every slight suffered. He was human, after all, not some immortal toyed with by fate for 500 years or a figure of ridicule and envy. All he could do was grow stronger, and with that strength, uplift the people he cared about. At last, he turned off the main path onto a narrower track and continued on foot. After a few more minutes, the familiar outline of an earthen house emerged against the ochre landscape. It wasn't much, just a modest dwelling built of rammed earth, but to Cheng Xiao it was everything. He paused at the gate, taking in the weathered walls and the sloping roof, a slow smile spreading across his face. He could already picture his grandfather's astonished expression when he stepped inside. This simple reunion was all Cheng Xiao ever wanted. He turned to the young woman at his side and said, "This is my home. Let's go in." Ye Lingling smiled and nodded. As they approached the weathered front gate, Cheng Xiao felt his heart pound with anticipation. The door stood open, and thin curls of white smoke drifted out. Someone was cooking. Stepping through the threshold, he found everything exactly as he remembered. The low wooden table, the clay stove in the corner, the modest furnishings that had never changed. At the stove stood an old man, stirring a simmering pot. When he looked up and saw strangers entering so abruptly, his brow furrowed in puzzlement. "Xiao? Xiao Xiao?" the old man whispered. Despite the years that had passed, Old Man Cheng recognized his grandson the moment he saw him. Cheng Xiao's throat tightened with emotion. He blinked back tears, rubbed his tired eyes, and forced a bright smile. "Grandpa, it's me. I'm home." The old man's voice cracked with relief. "It's so good to have you back. So good." He hurried forward, his gnarled hand reaching out to brush gently across Cheng Xiao's cheek. Worry shone in his eyes. "You've lost so much weight, child. Are you all right?" Cheng Xiao swallowed, the warmth of his grandfather's concern flooding through him. "I'm fine, Grandpa. I promise." Behind him, Ye Lingling stood quietly, her eyes soft with understanding as she watched the reunion she had helped bring about. The savory scent of dinner wafted between grandfather and grandson, filling the room with the promise of a long-overdue homecoming. "Have you suffered much out there?" Cheng Xiao's eyes welled with tears and his voice cracked. "No, it wasn't bad at all, Grandpa." Old Man Cheng's gaze drifted past his grandson, and he froze in surprise. Standing quietly behind Cheng Xiao was a young woman of striking beauty. He blinked, then asked, "Xiao Xiao, who is this?" Before Cheng Xiao could speak, the girl stepped forward with a gentle smile. "Hello, Grandfather. I'm Cheng Xiao's friend. My name is Ye Lingling." A warm smile spread across Old Man Cheng's wrinkled face. "Ye Lingling? That's a lovely name," he said, nodding in approval. "You both must be famished after your journey back to the village." He placed a kindly hand on his grandson's shoulder. "Xiao Xiao, show Lingling inside and have a seat. I'll prepare something for us to eat right away." Inside the simple cottage, Old Man Cheng moved with surprising agility. He stacked firewood beside the hearth, arranged earthenware bowls, and pulled handfuls of fragrant wild mushrooms and fresh vegetables from a woven basket. Cheng Xiao hovered nervously at his side. "Grandpa, I'm not a child anymore. Let me help." But the old man shook his head, his eyes soft yet resolute. "You've traveled thousands of miles to see your grandfather. The least I can do is feed you both. Now, go sit with Lingling. I'll call you when supper's ready." Cheng Xiao swallowed, heart full of gratitude. He led Ye Lingling to a low wooden bench beside the stove, where the flicker of the fire cast dancing shadows on the worn beams. As he settled beside her, the comforting scent of simmering broth filled the air, and for the first time since his long journey began, Cheng Xiao felt truly at home. Grandpa Cheng waved off Cheng Xiao's offer to help, determined that his grandson should get a proper rest. "I'm not that old yet," he said with a grin. "Let me handle this." Cheng Xiao could only shrug and step back, ready to intervene if his grandfather overexerted himself. In no time, the two of them had laid out a spread of home-cooked dishes. Simple fare, perhaps, but each plate was bursting with flavor, a testament to Grandpa Cheng's extraordinary cooking skills. The aroma wafted through the house and even enticed the lurking shadow soldiers outside, who pressed against the doorframe, eyes shining and stomachs rumbling. We settled around the table, laughter and conversation flowing as freely as the tea. Cheng Xiao recounted his cultivation journey over the past few years, his trials and triumphs, the unexpected encounters, and all the amusing mishaps along the way. He spared his grandfather the more worrisome details, keeping the mood light and letting everyone simply enjoy the moment. Cheng Xiao's announcement that he'd finally reached the Soul Sect realm sent Old Man Cheng grinning from ear to ear. "You rascal," he teased. "You've made your old grandfather so proud." Once the meal was done, Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling cleared away the dishes together. Then Lingling reached into her robe, withdrew a small jade vial containing a single green pill, and offered it to Old Man Cheng. "Grandpa," she said gently, "this was given to me by my friend Douluo Bo. It'll add 5 more years to your life." Old Man Cheng blinked in surprise. 5 more years? He waved a dismissive hand and chuckled. "At my age, half my toes are already in the grave. What difference do 5 years make?" Lingling pressed the vial closer. "It's not about the years themselves," she said earnestly. "It's so you can continue to be with us. Especially Cheng Xiao, he needs you around." She turned to her friend. "Right, Xiaoer?" Cheng Xiao smiled warmly and placed a hand on his grandfather's. Grandpa, he said softly, I still haven't gotten married or had children yet. Who else am I going to ask to walk me down the aisle if not you? Old man Cheng paused, his eyes damp with affection. After a moment's hesitation, he accepted the jade vial. Well, for you, boy, I suppose I'll give it a try. He unscrewed the cap and examined the single emerald pill. Then, with a conspiratorial grin, he tucked it into his pocket. Now let's see if this old body can keep up with you for a few more years. You have to live a few more years. Otherwise, you'll never get to see your grandson, Cheng Xiao teased, her eyes bright with amusement. Old man Cheng let out a reluctant sigh, but stopped protesting. He accepted the small pill Ye Lingling offered and placed it on his tongue. The moment it dissolved, a rush of vitality filled his limbs. He felt decades younger, his strength as boundless as when he once carried a little Cheng Xiao on his shoulders without tiring. Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling exchanged relieved smiles at this miraculous change. Glancing at the deepening twilight, old man Cheng said, It's late. You two should sleep in the big house. It's more spacious. I'll stay here in the small cottage. He retrieved neatly folded bedding and spread it across the kang, the traditional heated platform. Being at the foot of the mountain, the nights were crisp. Although Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling, both soul masters, were hardly bothered by the cold, their grandfather's protective nature drove him to stoke the firebed until it glowed with warmth. Grandpa, Cheng Xiao protested, you should have the bigger room. Old man Cheng Chu keeled as he patted the thick blanket. This place is just fine. Now go on and rest. Reluctantly, Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling made their way to the main house. As they drifted off under the canopy of stars, they felt safe knowing their grandfather was rejuvenated and watching over them. Cheng Xiao hunched her shoulders against the chill seeping through the hut's thin walls. It's so cold in here, she muttered. Old man Cheng was already gathering kindling outside. Ye Lingling stepped forward, concern creasing her brow. Grandpa, Cheng Xiao and I are soul masters. We're used to the cold. Let us stay in the hut tonight. The old man paused, axe in hand, and shook his head with a wry smile. You two are tougher than I'll ever be, he admitted. All right, stay here. I'll keep the fire going for you. He heaved a final log onto his shoulder and lumbered back to the main house. Moments later, the crackle of burning wood drifted through the narrow doorway. Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling exchanged triumphant smiles, then carried their thick quilt inside and spread it across the kang, a traditional heated bed built into the earthen floor. Within minutes, the kang radiated a comforting warmth, banishing the day's lingering bite. Old man Cheng called up from the doorway, Don't let the cold get to you. I'll be right next door if you need anything. Thank you, Grandpa. Ye Lingling replied, her voice soft with gratitude. As darkness settled over the compound, the two soul masters curled up side by side on the narrow kang. There wasn't much room, just an inch or two of quilt between them, but the shared heat and the gentle hum of the fire beneath lulled them into a peaceful sleep, safe in the knowledge that they were looked after. Cheng Xiao sat close to the brazier, feeling its warmth wash over her. She glanced up at the low, patched ceiling and cleared her throat. Lingling, I'm sorry. What for? Ye Lingling looked up from where he'd been leaning against the wall. He studied her face in the firelight, a teasing smile tugging at his lips. Afraid I'll look down on you because of this dump? Cheng Xiao scratched the back of her neck. I mean, I've lived in those clean academy dorms for so long. Suddenly, moving into a place like this, I figured anyone with half a brain would hate it. He chuckled softly. It doesn't bother me. In fact, I kind of like it. Her eyebrows shot up. Really? You're not just saying that to make me feel better? Not at all. Ye Lingling pushed himself upright and gazed into the fading embers. Honestly, I know how tough it's been for you, growing up here, and yet you still got into the Soulmaster Academy. That's no small feat. Cheng Xiao's voice softened. I can't even imagine the years of effort you've put in to become who you are today. He turned back to her, sincerity shining in his eyes. Maybe so, but right now, all I want is for the people I care about and those who care about me to live good lives. That's enough. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the crackle of dying coals. Cheng Xiao reached out and took his hand. If anyone can make that happen, it's you. Ye Lingling returned her squeeze with a gentle smile, the hope in his eyes flickering brighter than any flame. Chapter 169, The Gravely Wounded 100,000-Year Soul Beast. Just before sunrise, wisps of smoke curled from the cooking stoves of the mountain village as families prepared their morning meals. Along the dusty Loess path, two figures walked side by side, their steps slow and hesitant. Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling exchanged embarrassed glances. Neither spoke. Cheng Xiao still felt the odd surprise of waking to find Ye Lingling asleep beside him the night before. By pure coincidence, she'd opened her eyes at the same moment he did, and for a few tense seconds they'd simply stared at each other, then wordlessly turned away and wrapped each other in an awkward, silent hug. That embrace had only ended when Old Man Cheng's voice drifted from the kitchen, calling them to breakfast. Over bowls of steaming millet porridge, Cheng Xiao laid out his plan to leave at first light. Old Man Cheng listened in thoughtful silence, pride and reluctance mingling in his aged eyes. He understood that his grandson's cultivation journey could not wait, but he could not pretend he wasn't a little disappointed. With a wry smile, he reminded Cheng Xiao that next time he returned, he'd best bring along a little grandson. After a brief farewell, Cheng Xiao slung his pack over one shoulder and fell into step beside Ye Lingling. Together they set off down the winding road, the morning sun at their backs, bound for whatever dangers and wonders awaited them beyond the horizon. Ye Lingling's cheeks burned as she hunched over her bowl of porridge, trying to hide her blush. Cheng Xiao, having left a stash of spirit gold coins with Old Man Cheng, rose from the table and offered her his hand. "Come on, Lingling, I've got something else I need to take care of." She lifted her head, eyes downcast. He hesitated, scratching the back of his neck, a rare awkward moment for the usually confident boy. About this morning, Ye Lingling bit her lip. As his first real hug, her heartbeat still thundered in her ears. She forced a small smile. "I hugged you, too," she murmured. "So I guess we're even." Cheng Xiao's embarrassment melted into relief. He cleared his throat and swiftly changed the subject. "Right, well, there's something else I need to do. Want to come with me?" She nodded, gathering her things. "Yes." "Great." He grinned and led the way out of Chengjia village. Outside the boundaries of Holy Soul Village, the forested valley lay still under a pale morning sky. Then, with a thunderous rush of wind, a colossal dragon unfurled its midnight blue wings. Each thunderous beat sent gusts raging through the treetops, roaring like the tide as it swept through the valley. The creature's scales shimmered in the dawn light, and its deep, resonant growl echoed off the cliffs, an awe-inspiring sight that marked the beginning of a new chapter in Ye Lingling and Cheng Xiao's journey. Moments later, the giant dragon's form began to shrink, folding in on itself until only 3 human figures, Cheng Xiao and his 2 companions, stood on a rocky outcrop above the forest. Cheng Xiao leaned forward and pointed down into the misty valley. "It should be right there," he said. Below them, a crystalline waterfall poured into the lush woods, sending spray and sunlight dancing through the trees. Ye Lingling peered down, frowning. "Where? All I see are trees and that waterfall. What exactly are we hunting?" Cheng Xiao met her gaze, his expression steady. "Legends tell of a gravely injured, 100,000-year-old soul beast hiding in this valley, a blue-silver emperor. If we can find it and claim its soul bone, I can bind it with my martial soul and turn it into a shadow soldier. Its legendary regenerative power means maintaining it will cost far less soul energy. If I rely on ordinary shadow soldiers, whenever one dies, I lose enormous amounts of soul power. In a protracted war, that loss would fall squarely on me." Ye Lingling studied the lush greenery beneath the waterfall's roar. No massive creature stirred in the canopy, only the soft haze of falling water, a bee, and the whisper of leaves. Still, she trusted Cheng Xiao's instincts. If there truly was a wounded blue-silver emperor here, they would be the first to find it, and would reap the reward. That way, we'll have an extra layer of protection in the competition. Ye Lingling's eyes widened in surprise. She hadn't realized that Cheng Xiao planned to turn the ancient, 100,000-year-old soul beast into one of his shadow soldiers. Then again, since he'd already explained the shadow soldier technique to everyone on the royal fighting team, it wasn't exactly a secret. "First, let me find out where the soul beast is hiding," Cheng Xiao said. His eyes flickered violet for an instant. From the edges of his shadow, Inky tendrils of smoke crept outward and coalesced into 10 distinct figures. Within seconds, 10 shadow soldiers materialized across the valley floor. "Search every nook and cranny," Cheng Xiao ordered calmly. The shadow soldiers spread out at once, their forms dissolving into the dim light as they scoured the area for the king's coveted beast. With his agents at work, Cheng Xiao felt no need to hurry. He took Ye Lingling's hand and led her to a smooth blue stone at the valley's edge. They sat together, watching the spot where the shadows had vanished, waiting for word. Moments later, the shadow soldiers regrouped. One of them slipped back into Cheng Xiao's personal darkness, relaying the beast's exact location. A triumphant smile crossed Cheng Xiao's lips. Before Ye Lingling could react, he drew her close in a protective embrace and summoned the swirling shadows around them. "Hold tight," he murmured, and with a soft surge of violet light, the pair vanished, transported by the very shadows that would serve as their insurance in the trials to come. Cheng Xiao slipped seamlessly into position beneath the roaring falls, and Ye Lingling followed at his side. Behind them, the shadow soldiers who had been scouting stood at silent attention, forming a protective ring. "This must be the place," Cheng Xiao murmured, gently releasing Ye Lingling's waist and letting his eyes trace the torrent of water crashing down. A small, confident smile played at his lips. "Cheng Xiao!" Ye Lingling's cheeks flushed pink as she scolded him softly. "Couldn't you have warned me next time?" "Huh? Warned you?" Cheng Xiao blinked in genuine surprise. Then, realizing his slip, he cleared his throat. "Right, sorry about that. I'll give you a heads up next time." At that moment, Ghost Leopard, one of the shadow soldiers, stepped forward with a low bow. "Your Majesty, I detect blind soul beasts rushing in this direction. Shall we engage them immediately?" Before anyone could reply, a chorus of guttural roars thundered up from the valley. A pack of savage emerald-green creatures, bearing the fierce countenance of Qingming wolves, erupted from the tree line and encircled Cheng Xiao and his companions in an instant. Tension crackled through the air as the beasts bared their fangs, their eyes glinting with predatory hunger. It was time to fight. Cheng Xiao surveyed the swirling mass of soul beasts closing in around them. He raised an eyebrow and spoke without hesitation to his shadow soldier, Ghost Leopard. "Finish them. We could use the extra hands for the city army." "Right away, sir." Ghost Leopard's form darkened, his eyes flashing. With a blur of motion, he sprang forward, and the other shadow soldiers erupted from Cheng Xiao's cloak to follow his lead. In moments, claws and fangs collided with shifting darkness, and the beasts found themselves outmatched. Ye Lingling stood at Cheng Xiao's side, watching the one-sided slaughter with growing concern. She frowned. "Why would soul beasts show up here?" she asked, voice low. "We're miles from the Empire's captive forest. None of them should be wandering this far." Cheng Xiao remained focused on the battlefield. "We'll know their purpose soon enough," he replied. He didn't need their origin story just yet. First, he intended to harvest their power. Once these 1,000-year-old beasts were transformed into shadow soldiers, every secret they held would be laid bare. A minute later, the last wolf-like creature crumpled into a lifeless heap. Cheng Xiao stepped over the fallen, his gaze cool and assessing. Then, with a single, deliberate snap of his fingers, he set the next phase of his plan in motion. Ye Lingling barely had time to register what was happening before a chorus of agonized wails split the air. From the shattered bodies of the millennium-old soul beasts rippled black, writhing tendrils of shadow. Ye Lingling stared in disbelief. She'd never seen Cheng Xiao's martial soul unleashed like this. He'd only ever used it to call forth shadow soldiers, a simple summoning trick that posed no threat to more than a handful of adversaries. If he truly wielded the power to slaughter every soul master and beast across the continent, well, the thought was chilling. Cheng Xiao's expression was as calm as ever as he surveyed the field. "Speak," he ordered, stepping forward. Before him, the once proud shadow figures huddled submissively. One of the spirit beasts bowed its ebony mane low. "Your Majesty, we were seized by human soul masters," it croaked, voice trembling. "We don't belong to this territory. We were brought here against our will. Their power, it was overwhelming." Cheng Xiao's eyes narrowed in recognition. "I know precisely whose doing this is," he said quietly. With a casual flick of his wrist, The shadow creatures dissolved into spirals of inky smoke that drifted away on an unseen wind. He turned his gaze toward the roaring waterfall that filled the clearing with mist and thunderous spray, as if contemplating his next move in the delicate game that stretched out before him. Chapter 170, The Emperor of the Blue-Silver Clan. Having just dispatched the last of the thousand-year soul beasts, Cheng Xiao turned his gaze to the roaring waterfall. He was now certain the Blue-Silver Emperor hid behind its cascading veil. "Be careful," Ye Lingling warned, catching the determination in his eyes. Cheng Xiao nodded once and stepped toward the torrent. In the shadows, the giant dragon Nash bristled, eager to spring into action, only to be halted by a raised hand. "This one's mine," Cheng Xiao murmured, a confident smile curving his lips. With a steady breath, he extended his arm. An invisible wave of force surged outward, parting the waterfall like a curtain. Seizing the gap, Cheng Xiao slipped through in a flash and reappeared at the base of the fall. There, he unleashed an even more powerful push of soul energy. The roaring water bucked and recoiled, ripping upward to expose a hidden cavern carved into the cliff face. Beyond the retreating torrent lay the entrance he had sought, undoubtedly the secret lair of the Blue-Silver Emperor. "Hand of the ruler!" Cheng Xiao thrust his palm forward, drawing in a steady breath. A low hum rose in his chest as his technique flared to life, sending a powerful gust racing through the waterfall. The torrent shot straight upward, suspended by his will. Seizing the moment, Ye Lingling sprang across the slick stones to his side, and together they approached the cave mouth now laid bare behind the frozen cascade. Carved into the rock around the entrance were faint traces of chisels and axe blows, ancient markings blurred by years of relentless water flow. Cheng Xiao studied them for a moment, then smiled. "This is it." He took Ye Lingling's small hand and strode into the cavern's darkness. The air inside was cold and dripping, the dank chill permeating every corner where light had never reached. Their footsteps echoed along the narrow passage, accompanied only by the soft drip of water and the distant sigh of wind through unseen cracks. After a few careful steps, Cheng Xiao and Ye Lingling abruptly came to a halt. A faint blue light glowed from the surface of the massive stone door before them. Beyond it lay exactly what Cheng Xiao had been searching for. He circled the door, probing its seams for a hidden latch or mechanism, but found none. Tang Hao's security measures were as solid as ever. "Nash, let's go," Cheng Xiao said. At his command, the shadow soldier Nash melted out of the darkness. With all eyes on him, Nash drew back his fist and struck the door full force. Bang! Spiderweb cracks raced across the stone's surface. Then, with a final thunderous crack, the door shuddered and collapsed into a heap of rubble. "So powerful," Ye Lingling breathed, disbelief in her voice. "Your Majesty, please enter." Nash's tone was courteous as he surveyed the debris at their feet. A wisp of shadow power coalesced around him, and in an instant the gravel lifted into the air, then shot out of the cave, clearing a wide path. Cheng Xiao flushed with a mix of embarrassment and pride. He nodded at Nash's efficiency, then, flanked by Ye Lingling and guided by the shadow soldier's watchful presence, stepped through the newly opened entrance. Cheng Xiao and Yin stepped through the stone doorway, and instantly their eyes were bathed in light. Before them lay a vast chamber hewn from solid rock, spacious, silent, and almost eerily empty. Along the perimeter walls, embedded stones glowed faintly, casting a soft, unearthly luminescence that neither of them recognized. At the center of the room, a small mound of earth supported a single, extraordinary plant. It resembled blue-silver grass but stretched far taller than any specimen they'd ever seen. Even more striking were the veins of pure gold tracing each leaf. Cheng Xiao's lips curved into a satisfied smile as he approached. He knelt by the mound and gently stroked the grass blades, marveling at their silky texture and the intricate golden pattern. "This," he murmured, "is no mere blue-silver grass. It's the legendary Blue-Silver Emperor, king of its clan. Those gold filaments, they mark its supremacy." Half-conscious at his side, Yin could do little more than stare. Even in her haze, she understood the truth. This young man's power and knowledge were far beyond her own, and she could not hope to resist him now. The life that survived her sacrifice still carries the twin mysteries of undying wildfires and spring breezes that renew the earth, mysteries that have sustained it to this day. And yet, when Cheng Xiao stepped into the stone chamber, he couldn't help but smirk. Did Tang Hao really mean to hide Yin here, in a place without sunlight? Even the hardiest of flowers and plants needs light and water. But this chamber was sealed on all sides, save for a small aperture high above, admitting only a sliver of daylight. Who in their right mind would think to cultivate anything under these conditions? From the moment he crossed the threshold, Cheng Xiao had shivered at the cold dampness clinging to the walls. In such an environment, only the most extraordinary flora could possibly survive. He crouched by a patch of bluish-silver grass sprouting from the mossy floor and reached out. "You can sense me, can't you?" he murmured, fingertips brushing the delicate blades. The grass trembled violently under his touch, its luminescent fronds quivering as if greeting an old friend. Cheng Xiao pressed his palm gently against the grass, and at once Yin shivered as its golden veins began to pulse, undulating like ripples across water. Yelingling stepped forward, curiosity bright in her eyes. "Cheng Xiao, is this the 100,000-year soul beast you told me about?" Cheng Xiao gave a wry smile. "Yes, but he's in this sorry state because of some idiot." "Some idiot?" Yelingling echoed, startled. She'd never heard Cheng Xiao swear before, and now she found herself burning to know exactly whom he was blaming, and how that person had harmed the beast. As they spoke, the silver-blue grass started to swell before their eyes, its stalks elongating in real time. Without hesitation, Cheng Xiao unleashed every last drop of his sacred soul power into it. Suddenly the chamber flooded with a pure blue-gold light so brilliant it banished every shadow. Under that divine energy, the grass's leaves, once scarcely a foot long, grew to nearly 2 feet in an instant, their edges gleaming with renewed life. Even after channeling sacred soul power, Yin's aura showed no further growth. Then something strange happened. Silvery blue leaves drifted through the air and gently wrapped themselves around Cheng Xiao's wrist. A soft ripple of spiritual energy pulsed between them, an unmistakable sign of awareness. Cheng Xiao smiled faintly. "You're conscious," she said. "If you understand me, nod. Let the leaf do it." One delicate leaf quivered, dipping in a slow, deliberate nod. Cheng Xiao's eyes gleamed. "In your current life, besides the Tang family, no one else has ever touched your soul. And yet you now harbor 2 utterly opposed energies. A dark power steeped in death and the radiant sacred force that's been chasing us from the start." Yin's heart thundered. She felt both of those forces coursing through her at once and had no idea how they'd come to coexist. Who could possibly wield such contradictory powers? The question burned in her mind, unanswered but impossible to ignore. Though the young man standing before her exuded an even more potent aura of death, one that sent a fresh wave of dread through her, her compassionate nature refused to let fear win. She chose to speak, convinced that not all humans were cruel. After all, Tang Hao was living proof that some would give their very lives to protect others. Chapter 171, King. Cheng Xiao's voice was cold and level. "Do you want me to get you out of here? This place isn't exactly conducive to your growth." In this suffocating dark, only the blue-silver emperor's stubborn vitality had kept Yin alive. Cradling the tiny grass-blade vessel that housed the blue-silver emperor, Yin nodded. "All right, get me out," he agreed. Cheng Xiao stretched out 2 fingers, "but I'll give you only 2 options." Yin watched, confused, as Cheng Xiao outlined them. "Option 1, I kill you right here, then carry your body out." A slow, hollow silence followed. Yin said nothing. "Option 2, Cheng Xiao continued, you choose to die by my hand, and I'll take you out." Yin blinked. "I'm afraid I don't see the difference," he admitted. "Either way, you kill me." Cheng Xiao's lips curved into a faint, unsettling smile. "You underestimate me. I know your true form, and I know how you came to be this shell of yourself. When you touched me, you sensed the power coursing through me. I have more than one way to resurrect you." He paused, letting the words hang in the stale air. "So decide." Yin pressed the grass-blade vessel closer to his chest and met Cheng Xiao's gaze. In the darkness, the question between them echoed louder than any answer. Which death would he choose? "But I won't let it be for nothing." "Then decide," Cheng Xiao said, his tone low and unyielding. Yin fell silent. She hadn't expected mercy from the young man standing before her. She was still too trusting, too convinced that kind-hearted people existed in the world. Now, with death looming over her, she realized how naive she'd been. Even he, despite all his power and years, couldn't escape his own mortality. Cheng Xiao, Ye Lingling interjected softly. May I have a few words with her before you proceed? She thought the choice Cheng Xiao had laid before Yin was harsh. Yet she understood his mission and would not stand in his way. Still, she hoped this blue-silver grass spirit wouldn't harbor resentment toward him. After all, dying now meant oblivion. At least with Ye Lingling's help, resurrection remained a distant possibility. Cheng Xiao paused, studying the trembling spirit before him. Then he nodded once and rose to his feet. Casting a quick glance at the blue-silver queen, he stepped out of the stone chamber, closing the heavy door behind him. He didn't relish this role of executioner. Yin had never harmed anyone. She was as much a victim as any other. But his path was set, and he would not falter now. Ye Lingling watched Cheng Xiao's retreating figure vanish into the distance. She turned to Yin, who still crouched beside the blue-silver emperor's blade-like grass, and knelt beside him. Gently, she stroked the silvery fronds and asked softly, "Do you really think he's that cruel?" Yin nodded, making the grass sway in agreement. Ye Lingling's voice was quiet as she continued. "I know this has nothing to do with pity, but he's not entirely heartless. He has his reasons." She paused, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "His power, it's tainted with death. Even if he spares you now, once your energy runs out, you'll still die." She looked around the clearing with a frown. "Cheng Xiao told me someone did this to you, though he didn't say why. Do you know who?" She pressed her lips together. "That person isn't dead, is he?" Leaning closer, Ye Lingling studied the bleak surroundings. "To cast you, a plant-type soul beast, into a place without a hint of sunlight, you can't photosynthesize, you can't draw in even the smallest spark of life. It's a kind of torture." She traced a finger along the edge of a blade, thoughtful, and "It feels unnatural. Whoever designed this place was human." Yin's single, mournful nod answered her. Ye Lingling sighed, straightening. "Don't worry. I won't let whoever did this get away with it." She laid a reassuring hand on the blue-silver emperor's glossy fronds. "Rest now. I'll figure out how to set things right." "If I'm no mistaken," Ye Lingling began, voice low but steady, "the one who transformed you and left you here must be the same person who hurt you in the first place, right?" At her words, Yin's entire form went still. Vines and leaves trembled as if caught in a rising storm. Across the cavern, the blue-silver emperor's silvery aura flared, ready to strike. But Ye Lingling bit her lip and held up a hand, refusing to back down. In her mind, Cheng Xiao's ultimatum echoed, "Choose one path or the other." "Listen," she urged, stepping closer. "If you truly trust my judgment, choose the second option. It may not be easy, but at least it won't tear you apart." Silence fell. Then, with deliberate calm, she delivered the final blow. "Because if he still loved you, how could you have ended up like this?" Her words crashed through Yin's heart like thunder. All the carefully constructed illusions shattered. Of course, if Brother Tang Hao had really cared for her, would he have sealed her away in this pitch-black cavern? Would he have taught her how to tend flowers in a secret ritual only to abandon her here? Even the chance of his wandering into a soul-beast forest, or the blue-silver emperor's own domain, would never have led him to do such a thing. Yin's leaves wilted, the truth burning through her veins. All this time, she'd clung to the lie that Tang Hao loved her. Now she saw the cage for what it was, and felt the first pangs of betrayal. After all these years, how many times had Tang Hao returned? You could count them on one hand. Maybe he didn't have the courage to face him, but if he truly loved him, wouldn't he at least have come to see him? Yin feared the answer already, and now, after hearing Ye Lingling's words, her last, fragile hope was utterly shattered. If Tang Hao had truly cared for him, how could things have ended up like this? Yin bowed her head, grief weighing her down. Even the blue-silver emperor's grass blades drooped in sympathy, the air thick with sorrow. "It seems you've accepted the truth." Cheng Xiao stepped forward, giving tearful Ye Lingling a gentle pat on the shoulder. Then he turned to the wilted blue-silver emperor, his voice steady and calm. "Actually, your son, Tang San, is already 14. By my count, you must be 14 now." Ye Lingling said softly, her words echoing in the silent chamber. "Haven't you been apart from your son all these years?" Cheng Xiao's voice cut in, colder still. I don't know exactly how long you've been trapped here, but it feels like 10 years at least. 10 years. He let the admission hang in the air before continuing, his tone laced with regret. 10 years I left you alone, and I never once came back to see you. Maybe I visited a handful of times, but even as your lover, I never did right by you. I'm ashamed. Each confession landed like a blade in Ah Yin's heart. Falsehoods might sting, but the truth was a far more merciless weapon. A wave of helplessness washed over her, extinguishing the fierce vitality she had always relied on. The roots of the blue-silver emperor, once vibrant and glowing, had long since turned pale, and now they visibly withered, drained by her despair. Without her conscious will to sustain it, the plant's legendary resilience had become a cruel burden. Cheng Xiao watched in anguish as its life force ebbed away. Unable to bear it, he closed his eyes and whispered a silent apology, mourning the damage his absence had wrought. Cheng Xiao had steeled himself for this moment, but it still felt strange and a little cruel to do this to someone as kind as Ah Yin. As the blue-silver emperor began to wilt, he reached out and lightly brushed its delicate leaves. In an instant, his shadow power surged outward, wrapping the plant in a protective cocoon. At that same moment, Cheng Xiao's spirit slipped into the gray expanse of the spirit realm, where he found Ah Yin curled in a corner. Without hesitation, he crossed the distance between them, knelt down, and spoke in a low, earnest voice. I'm sorry for the hurtful things I said. Ah Yin didn't look up. She hugged her knees to her chest, her shoulders trembling with barely suppressed sobs. Cheng Xiao took a steadying breath, then gently opened his arms and pulled her close. His voice softened even more. I know your heart aches right now, but is he really worth all these tears? He paused, studying her face. Promise me you'll stay by my side. I'll never leave you, unless one day I die first. Will you believe me? At his words, Ah Yin's shaking grew more intense, as though she were finally allowing all her pain to pour out. In an instant, countless strands of blue-silver grass burst from the ground, coiling around Cheng Xiao's arms and legs as though determined to rip him apart. Each razor-sharp blade cut into his flesh, yet he never loosened his grip on Ah Yin. If he had wished, he could have abandoned her, or slain her and summoned her spirit back into his service, but he refused to take such an easy, heartless path. At last, Ah Yin's storm of grief and rage subsided. The grass withered and collapsed like a receding tide. Through blurred, tear-streaked eyes, she still saw him clearly. The pale glow of his skin, the dark hair that framed his face, and the gentle, almost shy curve of his lips. Why did you promise me that? She choked out, her voice trembling. Cheng Xiao's features softened as he met her gaze. I could have killed you and bent your will with magic, he said quietly. It would have been simpler, for me, but I wanted something more honest. I don't want you here because I forced you. I want you to stay because you choose to. He paused, searching her eyes. So Ah Yin, will you come with me? Will you remain by my side? Her breath caught in her throat. A new warmth filled her chest as hope replaced despair. She pressed closer, bowing her head until her hair brushed his coat. My king, I will. Chapter 172. Have you absorbed this soul bone? Silence reigned in the empty stone chamber. Ye Lingling stood at a distance, her eyes fixed on Cheng Xiao and the colossal blue-silver emperor. Anxiety twisted in her chest. She feared his bold experiment might invite disaster, yet she dared not interrupt him. Who could say what consequences would follow? Then, as if a veil had been lifted, the scene before her began to shift. Under Cheng Xiao's touch, the once vibrant leaves of the blue-silver emperor darkened, black veins snaking through them like creeping shadows. From the tangled vines, a figure gradually took shape, a woman in the prime of her life, perhaps in her 30s. She was draped in a flowing gown of blue and gold that shimmered with every subtle movement. Her bearing was regal, almost otherworldly, setting off the delicate perfection of her face. Eyes the color of the clearest sapphire regarded the chamber with quiet intelligence. Golden ribbons wove through her skirt, their soft fragrance drifting on the still air. Yi Lingling stared in awe. She had known the blue-silver grass to be a fearsome soul beast, ancient, powerful, utterly alien, but she would never have imagined it could assume such a human form. And yet, she sensed that this astonishing transformation was only the beginning of what was to come. Ah Yin watched in astonishment as her blue and gold gown darkened to a deep navy, wisps of ebony smoke coiling around her limbs. Her sky-blue eyes shifted to a rich violet, and her once sapphire hair turned to inky black, like living shadows. "Congratulations, you've regained your human form." A calm voice spoke, and as the last tendrils of shadow faded, Cheng Xiao, who had been crouching nearby, rose to his feet. He stared at her, genuinely awed. "So, this is your power." Ah Yin's heart pounded. How could a mere soul sect cultivator draw back his dying 100,000-year-old soul beast and restore it completely? What force did he command? This same force that carried the very essence of death itself. And yet she realized she had borrowed that power to be reborn. Why then did she feel nothing but gratitude toward him? She hesitated, then spoke the only word that kept echoing in her mind since the transformation. "King, may I call you that?" Cheng Xiao gave a casual shrug and waved a hand. "If you like, titles don't matter much to me. Call me king or just use my name," he offered. "Thank you," Ah Yin replied, bowing her head in gratitude. She turned to Ye Lingling. "Cheng Xiao, shall we go now?" Yi Lingling, who had been lingering anxiously, exhaled in relief. "Yes," Cheng Xiao confirmed with a nod. "Our mission here is complete. Let's depart." "Your Majesty, wait a moment." Before Cheng Xiao could step away, Ah Yin spoke up sharply. She beckoned to the ever-present blue-silver emperor, and the thick, silvery grass leaves writhed toward the stone wall. One blade pressed against a tiny, protruding knob. A muffled click echoed through the chamber. Then, with a deep rumble, a large black object crashed to the ground in front of them, sending dust motes swirling in the torchlight. It was a long, narrow box, over a meter in length but barely a foot wide, its surface unadorned and without any visible lock. Cheng Xiao's eyes widened in surprise. He had forgotten all about the soul bone in his hand. "My lord, may I open it?" Ah Yin asked, coaxing the grass blades to lift the box gently. With careful precision, she swung the lid open and revealed whatever secrets lay hidden within. When the box finally opened, Ye Lingling and Cheng Xiao both recoiled as an immense pulse of life energy burst forth. It felt as though their blood might ignite in their veins. "A soul bone!" Ye Lingling breathed, staring in awe at the crystalline blue-gold femur lying inside the sleek black case. If Ah Yin truly was a 100,000-year-old soul beast, then this had to be its soul bone, a 100,000-year-old relic suffused with unparalleled vitality. Though not an offensive-type soul bone, it ranked among the highest ear auxiliary bones. Even stranger, both Ye Lingling and Cheng Xiao sensed a subtle pulse of consciousness emanating from it, as if the bone itself were alive. At that very moment, miles away in a secluded tavern in Tiando City, a slumped, drunken figure named Tang Hao suddenly snapped upright. The haze of his intoxication vanished in an instant, replaced by a cold, scarlet flash of murderous intent that would have chilled any onlooker to the core. Tang Hao's heart skipped a beat the moment he sensed the soul mark he'd planted on the box shatter. Someone had discovered its hiding place and stolen the soul bone inside. Damn it! Had the spirit hall finally uncovered Ah Yin's trail? No, first he needed to find out where the bone intended for Xiao San had gone. A feral thrill coursed through him. His soul power, long coiled like a spring, suddenly erupted, flooding every nerve, every muscle. Like a bolt of lightning, it shot him off toward Holy Soul Village, leaving the forest shadows trembling in his wake. In the candlelit throne room of the Spirit Emperor, Ah Yin knelt before Cheng Xiao, cradling the ancient relic. "Your Majesty," she said softly, lifting the smooth, ivory right leg bone of the blue-silver Emperor, a relic over 100,000 years old. "This is the peace I promised. Please accept it." Cheng Xiao extended his hand to take the bone, but paused, brow furrowed. "Can I absorb it again?" he asked, voice measured. Ah Yin's eyes flickered with regret. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Soul bones forged by spirit beasts cannot be reabsorbed by the same host. It's strictly forbidden." Cheng Xiao held the bone at arm's length, studying its pale shimmer. A slow, serious smile curved his lips. "Then you're right. I didn't come here to reclaim a soul bone." He slipped the relic back into its velvet-lined box, his gaze never leaving Ah Yin's. "There's something far more important I need from you." "I know," Ah Yin said softly, her gaze warm as she looked at Cheng Xiao. "I sense there's more in your power than mere death." She turned to Cheng Xiao with a gentle bow. "Your Majesty, Why not let Miss Ye Lingling absorb this soul bone instead? Her martial soul, the nine-hearted begonia, is of the plant category, and this bone is a perfect fit. With me here to guide her, she won't suffer a thing. Ye Lingling shook her head. No, it's far too precious. Soul bones were among the rarest treasures a soul master could claim. Most would have jumped at the chance to keep such a top-grade bone for themselves, but Ye Lingling refused, insisting it didn't belong to her. Cheng Xiao was the one it was meant for. Cheng Xiao smiled and stepped forward. Take it, Lingling. It truly is an extraordinary soul bone, but it's not suited to me. Ah Yin is right. This gift belongs to you. After a brief hesitation, Ye Lingling reached out, accepted the soul bone, and offered both Cheng Xiao and Ah Yin a grateful nod. Thank you, Cheng Xiao. Thank you, Sister Ah Yin. Ye Lingling bowed deeply as she accepted the soul bone. Under Sister Ah Yin's careful guidance, she settled into a cross-legged posture, closed her eyes, and drew a slow, steady breath. With a gentle touch, she pressed the small, blue-gold bone against her right leg. A soft buzz filled the air. The artifact trembled once, then dissolved into a swarm of glimmering blue-gold currents that coiled around her limb. A cool, invigorating energy streamed into her through every pore, effortless and serene. In her mind's eye, she found herself wandering through a vast meadow of waving blue-silver grass, every blade shimmering with power. Each pulse of that energy sank deep into her marrow, weaving itself into her soul. Gradually, Ye Lingling felt her spirit expand. Wave upon wave of strength rolled through her, lifting her soul power higher and higher. When the last current settled, she sensed it unmistakably. Her soul power had broken through to level 40. Gently opening her eyes, she met Sister Ah Yin's proud smile. Her cultivation had just taken a decisive leap forward. Yell! Yingling felt a soothing warmth coursing through her body, and one by one, all awareness of the world beyond dissolved. The blue-gold current that had circled her right leg now merged completely with her flesh and bone. Hours later, she stirred and slowly opened her eyes. A faint, cool tingling still lingered in her right leg. Not far off, Cheng Xiao sat on a straw chair woven by the blue-silver emperor himself, while Ah Yin stood behind her, eyes lowered in respectful silence, her gaze soft with loyalty toward her queen. You're awake, Cheng Xiao said with a light chuckle. It's getting late. Now that we've absorbed the last of the energy, we should head back. Ye Lingling nodded without hesitation. Let's go. Together, they stepped out of the cave and into the night air. Chapter 173. Ah Yin freed. The cave and soul bone vanished. As soon as they stepped out of the dark grotto, Cheng Xiao glanced back, cracked his knuckles, and the earth trembled. In an instant, Nash shed his human guise, expanding into his true form, a tremendous luminescent dragon. With a thunderous roar, the dragon exhaled a scorching breath that shattered the hillside, reducing the prison that had held Ah Yin for more than a decade to rubble. The cave, and with it, the abused soul bone at its heart, was gone forever. Ah Yin stood on the ruined slope, tears of relief shining in her eyes. She'd endured unimaginable torment in that black pit. It was only natural she still carried her resentment. Now, with the cruel walls crumbled, she felt the first stirrings of hope in years. Cheng Xiao surveyed the ruin one last time, then turned to the horizon, where the sun hovered at dusk. He slid his arms around Ye Lingling's slender waist and pulled her close. With a swift leap, they vaulted onto Nash's scaled back. Obedient to Cheng Xiao's command, the dragon flexed its colossal wings, catching a warm updraft. Together they ascended into the evening sky, bound for 7 Stars Academy. Night fell as they flew, plunging the world below into velvet darkness, and with the cave's destruction, a new chapter truly began for Ah Yin. A lone figure, draped in a black robe, tore across the open fields toward the waterfall in the small valley just beyond Holy Soul Village. It was Tang Hao. As a ranked Douluo, his speed was nothing short of astonishing. He had covered the distance from Tiando City in mere hours, pushing his spirit power to the limit. Yet despite his swift progress, his heart thudded with dread. After everything he'd done these past years, after all the risks he'd taken, he was haunted by the possibility that something terrible had befallen Ah Yin. And if she was in danger, what of the precious soul bones he'd left with Tang San? Had they, too, fallen into hostile hands? Ah Yin, please be all right, he whispered into the wind as he burst through the tree line and into the valley. but instead of the familiar roar of cascading water, silence greeted him. He skidded to a halt, eyes wide with shock. Where the waterfall had once thundered over smooth cliffs, there was now nothing but broken stones and barren earth. The hillside itself, the very landscape he knew so well, had been leveled. Trees lay splintered, jagged rock faces were gouged raw, and a haze of dust hung heavy in the air. It looked as if a cataclysm had ripped the valley apart only moments before. Cheng Xiao's breath caught in his throat. This ruin, this devastation, could only mean one thing. Something terrible had happened here. And now, he had to hurry even faster, both to find Yin and to retrieve those soul bones before they vanished forever. With renewed determination, he plunged deeper into the wreckage, heart pounding, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited him. Cheng Xiao's legs gave way, and he dropped to one knee, gasping in shock. Before him lay a scarred wasteland where a gentle hill had stood moments ago, trees splintered, earth gouged into deep trenches. He pressed trembling fingers to his satchel, recalling the strange box whose seal had flared at just that instant. Whatever power he'd unleashed had obliterated this place. Fury exploded in his chest. He slammed a fist into a shattered boulder, sending fragments skittering across the ground. "Who did this? Show yourself!" His voice trembled with barely contained rage. "If I ever lay eyes on you, I swear I'll tear you apart." He let out a feral roar, infusing it with his soul's power. The blast ripped through the narrow valley like an earthquake, and dozens of birds and small beasts, innocent creatures caught in the blast, dropped dead mid-flight. The echo of his wrath shook the hillsides, leaving silence in its wake. Far above the ruined valley, the first rays of dawn spilled across the sky in ribbons of gold and rose. On the broad, scaly back of a dragon, Cheng Xiao leaned forward into the breeze. Beside her, Ye Lingling laughed as her hair streamed behind her like silk. They gazed eastward at the rising sun, hearts brimming with exhilaration. For a moment the world felt boundless and wholly theirs. Then a strange tremor rippled through Cheng Xiao's arm, a soft vibration that made the fine hairs on her skin stand on end. She exchanged a startled look with Ye Lingling. In that perfect sunrise, something deep within them had stirred, an unfamiliar power awakening in tandem with the new day. Cheng Xiao startled and instantly slipped into cultivation mode. He could feel the tingling at the edge of his awareness, the telltale sign that his soul power was on the verge of breaking through level 50. Beside him, Nash, sensing the subtle shift, eased his flight to a near hover, determined not to ruffle even a whisper of wind that might disturb Cheng Xiao's focus. As Cheng Xiao's internal aura swelled and pulsed with rising intensity, his mind stilled. All the chatter of the outside world faded away, replaced by a profound tranquility. When he opened his spiritual eyes, he found himself in his personal realm, which, unlike the usual pitch-black void, now glowed with soft, shifting colors. No sooner had he stepped forward than Aspen appeared, taking the form of the young woman Cheng Xiaoyu. She greeted him with a gentle smile. "Impressive," she said. "Even without the system's guidance, your cultivation speed is remarkable. Your Xinqing, your spiritual character, has strengthened greatly." Cheng Xiao clenched his fists at his sides, his voice calm yet firm. "Thank you, Aspen, for granting me these powers and skills." Aspen's smile widened, and she tilted her head in playful curiosity. "Oh, is the ancient dragon you recovered really one of the Dragon Emperor's lieutenants?" Aspen asked, a hint of surprise in his calm smile. "You've grown remarkably, slaying an ancient dragon at the Legion commander level so effortlessly." Cheng Xiao shook his head. "It wasn't just me. When I faced Nash, I had no hope of victory on my own. Only with the lingering spirit of the Ice and Fire Dragon King at my side could I reclaim command of the Shadow Soldier Legion." Aspen's expression grew grave. "Luck is a form of strength, too. Without it, you'd only die faster. Just recently I sensed the overlords stirring beyond our world. Before long, they will summon Cheng Xiaoyu." "Cheng Xiaoyu?" Cheng Xiao's brow furrowed. "Will he really come? Does he even have the power to breach the dimensional wall?" A faint smile curved Aspen's lips. "Don't underestimate the Shadow King's might. He is the wellspring of much of your power. The true Aspen has long since found his rest. I am merely his vessel." He leaned forward, eyes burning with resolve. "Cheng Xiao, push yourself harder. Grow ever stronger." Soon, an even mightier being will descend upon this world. No one knows what will follow, and the collision of two worlds spells only disaster. The moment those words fell silent, the reality before Cheng Xiao began to fracture. The black void around him rent itself, and inside his chest, the soul barrier cracked like thin ice. A muffled boom echoed as his eyes shot open, releasing a chilling aura of death that rippled outward. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, savoring the surge of power. Then, a slow, triumphant smile curved his lips. Level 50 already? I didn't expect to break through so soon. No wonder they all talk about cheating. This is incredible. At the apex of his breakthrough, a deep obsidian soul ring coalesced within his aura. Yet Cheng Xiao concealed its formation. With companions standing by, he dared not reveal that he could forge rings without a soul beast. And besides, Ye Lingling had only just reached level 40. Bringing her along on a soul-hunting expedition would neatly mask any questions about his new ring. He opened his eyes and addressed Nash. Let's move on. Sunset Forest awaits. Without another word, Nash pivoted, and the two of them set off toward the forest's crimson horizon, unaware that the world was about to change, forever. Ye Lingling blinked in confusion, not quite grasping what Cheng Xiao meant. Then, as soon as she realized he was offering to take her out to hunt for spirit rings, her cheeks warmed with a rosy flush. Chapter 174, New Power. Half a day later, in the heart of Sunset Forest's rugged mountains, black shapes darted between the trees, snapping branches in their wake. Since their arrival, Cheng Xiao had dispatched his shadow soldiers to hunt for soul beasts compatible with Ye Lingling's martial spirit. As Cheng Xiao's own power grew, so did that of his soldiers. What had once been ordinary operatives were now elite fighters, and several had advanced even further, earning the rank of knight. With their newfound strength, these shadow soldiers made quick work of even the 1,000-year-old soul beasts. Coordinating in packs rather than striking alone, they overwhelmed their prey with ruthless efficiency. After only moments in the forest, dozens of formidable beasts lay dying at their feet. Ye Lingling, usually the picture of calm, couldn't help but be awed by the display. The shadow soldiers' speed and precision far exceeded her expectations, and it was only just the beginning. Many soul beasts were driven before them in rapid succession. Ye Lingling surveyed the crowd with calm, calculating eyes. Whenever a beast fell, sometimes by accident, they were immediately reanimated as obedient shadow soldiers. Lingling, get ready to absorb the soul ring, Cheng Xiao said with a faint smile. Ye Lingling gave a slight nod. He focused on a mid-sized plant-type soul beast whose aura harmonized with his own. With a swift strike, he ended its life. As the creature's soul ring floated free, he settled into a cross-legged stance and began drawing its energy into himself. Cheng Xiao, meanwhile, withdrew into the silent depths of his mind, where a surge in soul power had unlocked new entries in his mental compendium. Lines of text flickered before him. Exclusive power, shadow copy. You can manipulate shadows to replicate items at will, including an opponent's martial spirit and its abilities. Direct contact is required, and any copied powers scale to your current level of strength. King's Domain. While you occupy this domain, all shadows under your command gain a 50% increase to their abilities. The Shadow King's own physical attributes likewise receive a 50% bonus. This enhancement can be further advanced. Shadow, a skill unique to the King's Domain. All non-shadow entities within this realm suffer a permanent 30% reduction in their physical attributes. Cheng Xiao's lips curved upward as he absorbed the implications. With these new abilities ready at his command, the Shadow Army would soon become an unstoppable force. Cheng Xiao paused to absorb the full weight of what he'd just learned. His newly acquired soul ring didn't grant him raw destructive power, yet its exclusive skill, replication, offered a nasty surprise for any opponent. And then there was the pièce de résistance, the King's Domain. Once cast, it enveloped the battlefield in shadow, weakening every enemy within its boundaries by a full 30%, a staggering debuff in any fight. He inhaled deeply, steeled his mind, and lifted his palm. Instantly, tendrils of darkness coalesced around him. In the blink of an eye, the world turned pitch black. Cheng Xiao felt his body grow lighter, his senses sharpen, and a surge of strength pulsed through his veins. But the euphoria was brief. The moment he glanced at his soul energy gauge, his expression tightened. The king's domain was draining him faster than he'd anticipated. At his current reserve, he could sustain it for barely a minute. A minute, yet that was plenty. The true power of the king's domain didn't depend on how many foes it held. Its strength lay in the severity of the weakening effect itself. In 60 seconds, any army, no matter its size, would be reduced to half its fighting potential. Cheng Xiao steadied himself, locking onto his first target in the darkness. 1 minute of absolute advantage was all he needed. With a calm nod, he prepared to strike. Cheng Xiao's mind raced with excitement as he weighed the true power of his new domain skill. Within its bounds, every one of his 10,000 Dao soldiers would instantly receive the enhancement, though at the cost of an enormous amount of soul power. Still, the ability was breathtaking. As he grew stronger and his soul power expanded, so too would the size of his Shadow Legion. In the event of full-scale war, he'd be all but invincible. He was lost in these thoughts when a figure with jet-black hair quietly materialized beside him. Relying solely on the strength of his soul power, Douluo hovered in midair and drifted down until his feet touched the ground. "You actually showed up," Douluo said with a chuckle, clapping Cheng Xiao on the shoulder. "I saw your shadow soldiers this morning and figured you'd be back. As for the academy, well, here you are." He studied Cheng Xiao with interest. "Don't tell me you broke through to level 50 out there." Cheng Xiao smiled. "Critics always say I can't, so of course I did." Douluo's eyes went wide in disbelief. "Seriously? And you've even been practicing flight?" Cheng Xiao nodded, a confident grin spreading across his face. "Have you broken through to level 50 yet?" Douluo asked, folding his arms and raising an expectant eyebrow. Cheng Xiao threw up his hands in mock exasperation. "No, I haven't. Do I look like I'd lie about something like that?" A slow grin spread across Cheng Xiao's face as he turned to his old friend. "Old poison, you're just in time. I've got a brand new soul technique. Want to help me test it?" Dark, smoky tendrils curled around his outstretched palms. Douluo's lips twitched. "Try it on me. You wouldn't kill me, would you?" He waved Cheng Xiao off. "I'm not letting you do it. If you kill me, I'll hold you personally responsible," with a flood of tears. Cheng Xiao rolled his eyes, but before he could reply, Douluo's gaze wandered. A few meters away, Yilingling knelt before a freshly sprouted soul ring's glimmering tendrils, her arms glowing as she absorbed its power. Shadowy figures, her newly summoned soul guards, patrolled silently around her. "Tsk-tsk-tsk," Douluo murmured, rubbing his chin. "So that's why you didn't go back to the academy. You've been dragging this little girl out here to hunt soul rings." Cheng Xiao shrugged casually. "She needed to break through. I figured, who better to help than her senior?" Douluo's eyes flickered in the dim light. "And when do you plan to return to the academy?" His tone sharpened. "What about your arrangement with Shui Qinghe?" Cheng Xiao's smile faltered, and he glanced toward the woodland canopy overhead. "I'm still negotiating the details, but don't worry, everything's under control." Douluo studied him for a long moment, then nodded grudgingly. "Just don't let this little side expedition cost you your standing at school. You know how strict Headmaster Shui can be." Cheng Xiao offered a cocky salute. "Consider it handled. Now, old poison, ready for your test subject?" Douluo sighed, but a spark of amusement returned to his eyes. "Fine, but if I end up in pieces, you owe me a full crate of healing pills." Cheng Xiao's grin widened as the two friends readied themselves in the clearing, the air humming with the promise and peril of untamed soul power. "He brought a woman with him this time, saying you promised him." Cheng Xiao froze for a heartbeat, then managed a wry smile. "I thought he was joking. Turns out he was serious." "What do you mean?" Douluo frowned in confusion. "Is there some secret between you two? If it's nothing scandalous, just tell me. I swear I won't spread it around." Cheng Xiao waved her hand dismissively. "There is no secret. He just said his cousin wanted to tag along for the fun of it. Really, that's all." "His cousin?" Douluo's brows shot up. "Okay, enough about that. Will you come back to the academy with me later, or head home first?" "Don't be ridiculous," Cheng Xiao replied with a playful laugh. "I came here to escort you. Would I let you go back alone? That'd be humiliating for me." Douluo grinned. "Fine. After Lingling absorbs the new spirit ring, we'll return together. I still need to figure out what to say to Shui Qinghe once we get back. Shrek Academy. Fresh from claiming his 4th spirit ring in the Stardew Great Forest, Tang San arrived back at the academy alongside Master and their companions. They'd barely crossed the academy gates when Daimubai's voice rang out across the courtyard. Xiao-san, you're finally back. Brother, I really have to thank you this time. Tang San glanced over with a grin. Mubai, there's no need for formal thanks. We're classmates and sworn brothers. It's only natural to help one another. But Daimubai shook his head, the relief and excitement clear on his face. Those immortal herbs you gave me worked wonders. My meridians, shattered by Bone Douluo, have completely healed. My spirit power broke through the level 39 bottleneck, and with Teacher Zhao's guidance, I secured my 4th spirit ring. I'm already at spirit level 42. Burden lifted from his shoulders, Daimubai strode forward and clapped Tang San on the shoulder so hard the ground almost shook. Tang San laughed and returned the gesture with a playful punch to Mubai's chest. In reality, the herbs he'd handed out to both Dai Mubai and Mahongjun were only medicinal. When the moment was right, Mubai's breakthrough would have come of its own accord. Just then, Mahongjun bounded up, eyes bright with curiosity. Third brother, what spirit skill did you acquire as your 4th ring on this trip into the Stardew Great Forest with the Dean? Can you show it to me? All right, but wouldn't it be more exciting with a larger audience? Tang San's lips curved into a sly smile as he lifted his right hand. A burst of white light erupted from his palm, coalescing into a single strand of blue-silver grass. It looked no thicker than before, but now delicate white veins glowed across its surface, casting a soft, warming light. In the next instant, 4 soul rings, 2 yellow, 1 purple, and 1 jet black, spiraled up from around Tang San's feet. A sudden wave of invisible pressure slammed into Mahongjun and Daimubai, forcing them to stagger backward. A 10,000-year soul ring, Tang San's voice trembled with controlled excitement. Mahongjun and Daimubai rubbed their eyes in astonishment as they stared at the dark soul ring gleaming on Tang San's forearm. Third brother, you can't be serious. Mahongjun's voice shook. You're only level 40. How did you get a 10,000-year ring already? Tang San flashed them a confident grin. I'm the master's disciple. Making the impossible possible, that's my specialty. No sooner had the words left his mouth than dozens of blue-silver grass vines shot up around Mahongjun. In an instant, they wove themselves into a towering cage overhead, its living blades locking him in place. Daimubai gaped. That was unbelievably fast. When Xiao-san used his soul skill before, he barely had any soul power left. This is my 4th soul skill, Tang San said, snapping his fingers. A black aura flared from the newly acquired ring on his arm. I call it Silver Cage. At his signal, another surge of blue-silver grass burst from the earth beneath Daimubai's feet. The blades twisted and coiled so swiftly that within a heartbeat, a second massive cage had closed around him. Tang San stood between his 2 bound friends, eyes shining with triumph as the twin prisons of living grass held them fast. It really is a group control skill? Damn it, third brother, are you getting perverted on us? Mahongjun frowned as he stared at the shimmering cage that encased Daimubai. Don't holler, you big oaf, what a waste, Daimubai retorted with a grin. Then he drew in a steady breath, white light flaring around his right fist. Concentrating every ounce of his soul power, he struck the cage. With a thunderous crack, the blue-silver grass bars splintered into pieces. Xiao-san, what are you doing? Daimubai broke off, astonished. The cage he'd just shattered reassembled itself in the very next instant, the broken fragments fusing back into place as if nothing had happened. Boss Dai, you're too impatient, Tang San said, waving his right hand in a casual arc. The glow of his 4th soul ring pulsed once, and every strand of blue-silver grass sank beneath the earth. In a heartbeat, it vanished completely, no trace left behind. Daimubai's eyes widened with genuine admiration. Xiao-san, your 4th soul skill can regenerate instantly. That's amazing. Mahongjun jogged to catch up. Third brother, you really are the best. Didn't the current elite soul master champion of the continent just come from Shrek Academy? Tang San laughed confidently. That's right. With my 10,000-year spirit ring and the rapid regeneration ability of my 4th spirit skill, there's no doubt we'll claim the title. He paused, then asked, By the way, where's Xiaoao? Ma Hongjun's grin vanished. Don't ask about that guy. Ever since he arrived, he's either knee-deep in training or meditating. He's been tailing Xiao Wu and Juju King every day. Actually, not long after you left, Boss Dai and Xiao Ao nearly tore the place apart in an all-out fight. Tang San's eyes flicked to Dai Mubai, leaning against a garden railing. Boss Dai, you're all right? Dai Mubai shrugged, entirely unbruised. I'm fine, he said with a clipped tone. It was Zhu Zuqing who came at me. Something about protecting Oscar. Frankly, it ticked me off, so I answered her challenge. Tang San nodded, relief flashing in his eyes. You two are always like this. Anyway, let's gather the others and finalize our strategy. The tournament will be here before we know it. With a nod from Ma Hongjun and a lazy stretch from Dai Mubai, the three set off across the academy grounds, already plotting their path to the Elite Soul Master Championship. Ning Rongrong is gone, and she clearly hasn't spilled the whole story to the Spirit Hall Douluo. Had she done so, there's no way she'd still be standing here. That's a relief, Boss Dai, Tang San said. Over the next 6 months, things should settle down. Our Shrek team's already stretched thin, another internal fight, and we'll lose this contest. Dai Mubai flashed a grin and clapped him on the shoulder. I hear you, sister. As your eldest brother, I won't hold Oscar's mistake against him. Tang San nodded once, a faint spark lighting his eyes as he pondered something unspoken. At 7-Star Research Academy. After escorting Ye Lingling back to her dorm, Cheng Xiao and Du Gubo strolled along the campus path toward the reception hall. When they arrived, they parted ways. Du Gubo's status as Prince Xuexing's honored guest made it unwise for him to enter and risk arousing suspicion. Cheng Xiao stepped into the hall. On the dais, she immediately recognized the two people seated at its center, a man and a woman, waiting to receive her. It wasn't immediately clear whether the man was Shui Qinghe, but the woman standing beside him could be no one else. A shaft of golden sunlight pierced the Venetian blinds, softening Cheng Xiao's sharp features and lending him an almost ethereal glow. Cheng Xiao, you finally made it, Shui Qinghe said, rising from her seat with effortless grace. Cheng Xiao stepped forward and clasped his hands in a respectful salute. I'm sorry to keep you waiting, Shui. I had some urgent business to finish. As he spoke, his gaze drifted to the woman standing next to Shui. She was statuesque, long, wavy golden hair cascading down her back, flawless skin like fresh snow, and eyes as clear and deep as a mountain spring. Everything about her radiated poise and nobility. Catching his stare, the blonde flashed him a mischievous wink. Well spotted, brother Cheng Xiao, she teased, her voice light and playful. You wasted no time staring at my cousin the moment you walked in. Shaching his lips parted as if to speak, then he caught himself. Recalling the real reason he'd come, he quickly turned to Cheng Xiao. Brother Cheng, I've met my cousin a few times now. There's nothing more I need to say. With a polite nod to Qian Renshui, he offered, I've arranged someone to assist her. I have another matter to attend to, so I'll be taking my leave. Without waiting for a reply, he slipped out of the room. After Shui Qinghe's hurried exit, Cheng Xiao gave a low whistle, pulled over a chair, and sat down. He poured himself a cup of tea and grinned at Qian Renshui. You came all this way just to see me? This must be important. Qian Renshui's eyes gleamed like polished amber. Her voice was as steady as a drawn blade. Are you truly that naive, or is it an act? Do you plan to sever every tie behind you once you've gotten what you want? Are you going to discard me the moment I've served my purpose? Cheng Xiao leaned back, sipping his tea in deliberate silence. When his cup was empty, he set it down and fixed her with a long, steady gaze. At last he spoke, his voice low and earnest. If you're willing to stand by me, if you'll let me depend on you, then no, I won't cast you aside. No. The single word hung in the air, and Cheng Xiao shivered as if the temperature had dropped several degrees. Across from her, Qian Renshui's eyes flashed gold with barely contained rage. What are you implying? She demanded. Cheng Xiao grinned and held up his hands in mock surrender. Relax, I'm only teasing. Don't look so upset. You're incredibly beautiful, Renshui. Any man would fall for you. He paused, feigning embarrassment. But well, you're older than me. I'd rather be with someone my own age. Speak like a human being, Qian Renshui snapped through clenched teeth, fighting the urge to draw her sword. She realized Cheng Xiao was deliberately provoking her. He must have uncovered something about the imposter posing as Shui Qinghe and was waiting here in anticipation of her arrival. Cheng Xiao leaned back in his chair, radiating calm confidence. All right, since you insist on plain language, here it is. I don't know how strong you are now, but there's something not quite right about that fake Qinghe, and I intend to find out exactly what you know. I still remember our first encounter. You looked every bit like a soul emperor back then. That was just a trick, Qian Renshui said, frowning. In truth, I'm only a 53rd level soul king. Cheng Xiao glanced at the faint ripples of energy pulsing across her chest. A soul king, eh? Not bad, but you could polish your presence a bit. He gave her a lopsided shrug. By the way, what name will you use for the competition? You can't very well enter under your real name. Qian Renshui paused to consider. Liu Shui, she finally decided. Liu Shui, he repeated, nodding. That's perfect. Stretching, he rose to his feet. Come on, Sister Qianshui, let's move. She opened her mouth to protest. Wait, are you in such a hurry to get rid of me? He waved her off without slowing down. Don't misread me. I have other appointments, but if you're free, feel free to stay here. The college dorms will suit you just fine. And with that, he strode away. Qian Renshui watched his retreating figure, chest tight with anger. She'd never been so furious in her life, yet no words would come. Her resentment simmered as she willed him to turn back, but Cheng Xiao was already gone. She snapped, Hold on a second, Cheng Xiao. Once I'm done using you, you'll know exactly who's on top and who's on bottom. Chapter 176, The Opening of the Soul Master Competition. 3 months had passed since the events at the Spirit Pagoda, and Tiandu City now lay under a flawless cerulean sky. The morning sun was warm without ever becoming harsh, and a gentle breeze stirred the banners that lined the wide avenue leading to the competition grounds. Everywhere you looked, students and spectators moved with bright anticipation. Today marked the opening of the Continental Soul Master Elite Competition, held only once every 5 years and eagerly awaited across both the Northern and Southern empires. This tournament wasn't merely a showcase for the academies. It was the biggest gathering in the Soul Master world. From the preliminary open sessions to the promotion rounds, then on to the grand finals, the contest would span several demanding months. Every participating academy was required to field at least 7 combatants, each vying to prove their prowess and catch the eye of the Empire recruiters and the influential Wuhun Hall scouts who circulated through the stands with equal intent. Strict rules governed the matches. Killing was absolutely forbidden, as was deploying any weapon not derived from one's martial soul. That meant all concealed armaments, throwing knives, secret blades, poison darts, had to remain locked away in competitors' soul repositories. Among those sidelined weapons were the 2 finely wrought daggers Cheng Xiao had crafted by hand. Until today, they'd rested unused in his soul guide, but now, bound to his shadow martial soul, they emerged once more, ready to dance through any contest that stood between him and victory. Nearly 100 top-level soul masters from the 2 empires converged for this elite tournament. Each advanced academy was allotted slots, and the 2 imperial royal colleges, Tiandu Royal College among them, enjoyed the privilege of 2 entries each. Once a school's main team secures its place in the final round, its secondary squad must fight through the qualifiers against other academies' teams. The tournament unfolds in 2 distinct phases, preliminaries and the promotion contest. In the preliminaries, all teams compete in battle soul matches under a single round-robin format. The 15 teams with the highest cumulative points then advance to the promotion stage, which employs a dramatic gauntlet system. Each school nominates 7 players who duel in succession. After every bout, the victor remains on the field, while the loser is replaced by the next teammate. This cycle continues until one side runs out of eligible Soul Masters. As the premier event of the Soul Master world, the tournament draws not only the rapt attention of practitioners, but also that of royal families, nobles, and the general populace, everyone eager to witness the season's grandest spectacle. From the very first rays of dawn, Tiandu City, an imperial capital steeped in history, was already stirring. Figures appeared on the once quiet streets, emerging from every district like ants spilling out of a nest. Though they took different paths, all were bound for one place, the Tiandu Grand Soul Arena at the city's heart. Today marked the opening of the Soul Master tournament, and anticipation crackled in the cool morning air. For the first time in months, Cheng Xiao did not rouse himself before sunrise for training. Instead, he let his body wake naturally, then strolled from his chamber without haste. The past 3 months of relentless practice under Douluo Yan had paid off. Cheng Xiao's soul power had soared to level 50. Alongside him stood a formidable team, Yu Tianheng, the Shi brothers, Ye Lingling and Ning Rongrong, each having reached level 40. Among them were 3 Soul Kings, while the others held the rank of Soul Lord. With his ability to summon shadow soldiers in battle, Cheng Xiao could single-handedly dominate the competition, but he valued the strength of their united front. After all, a shadow monarch fights best alongside allies, never in isolation. No sooner had he crossed the threshold than he spotted Dean Douluo, the venerable head of 7 Stars Academy, waiting by the gate. The old man's stern expression softened into a faint smile. Today, he would take his place in the stands, cheering on the Academy's finest in what promised to be Tiando's most electrifying contest yet. Douluo glanced at Cheng Xiao with a half-amused smirk. "Kid, it's a rare sight to see you sleeping in." Cheng Xiao waved him off as he stepped down the staircase. "Well, the tournament starts today. Figured a little extra rest wouldn't hurt." Shrugging, Douluo followed him into the cafeteria. He settled across from Cheng Xiao and watched as his friend alternated mouthfuls of porridge with steamed buns. Finally, he shook his head. "You're not normal. You get up before the roosters on most days and stay up past the dogs at night. What exactly are you planning?" Cheng Xiao polished off his porridge, letting out a chuckle. "Just getting ready for the match. Sure, our college has solid facilities, but no real reputation. If I don't make some noise, how are we supposed to compete with the big schools?" Douluo raised an eyebrow. "Just don't overdo it. Push too hard and you'll get suspended again." A confident grin spread across Cheng Xiao's face. "Relax, I know exactly what I'm doing." They finished breakfast in companionable silence, then stepped out of the cafeteria to join the rest of their team. Under Douluo's leadership, the group made their way toward the Tiando Grand Soul Arena. After about 10 minutes, crossing several bustling thoroughfares, they finally arrived at the arena's entrance. But when they drew near, they came to an abrupt halt. The main gates were jammed with spectators. "Looks like everyone's here for Doha today," Yu Tianheng remarked, staring at the throng. "Relax," Douluo Yan said with a confident smile. "We're registered participants. We have our own passage into the arena." As hosts of the preliminaries, the Grand Soul Arena provided competitors with exclusive access. And since Tiando City is the imperial capital, the royal family had stationed the royal knights here to keep the peace. "Then let's move," Cheng Xiao said, gesturing them forward. "Through the VIP entrance." "Right," the others agreed, shifting toward the side gate. Just as they reached it, a squad of figures in olive-green uniforms swaggered into view, their expressions brimming with arrogance. They walked straight toward the group, clearly ready to make a scene. As soon as the students in those drab green uniforms appeared, a wave of disgust rippled through the crowd. Voices rose in derision. "What's so special about their look, anyway? That rundown academy actually earned a spot in the all-continental high-level Soulmaster Elite competition? Seriously, are they here to compete or to pick up trash?" Hearing the commotion, Cheng Xiao and her companions, waiting to enter through the Soulmaster's special entrance, paused and turned toward the noise. From the southwest corner of the Great Soul Fighting Arena, a procession in faded green was making its way forward, drawing a chorus of scornful jeers from the spectators. The spectators around them broke into jeers as Cheng Xiao's team stepped onto the field. "Look who's here! The Trash Academy! What a joke! Green uniforms? Did they think this was a garden party? Ha! Their dean must be wearing a green horned cap to match. See that little green creature on their chests? They might as well call themselves the Shrek Academy." Each insult drove home the contrast. The opposing team's uniforms were sleek black and blue, the 7-Star Academy's emblem, a stylized cluster of 7 stars, proudly gleaming on the chest. Beneath it, an adorable chibi figure of Douluo's legendary green phosphorus Snake King fought its way through swirling mist. It was a far cry from the dull, mismatched greens of their rivals. Cheng Xiao glanced down at his own uniform, straightening the collar. He could feel his teammates stiffen beside him. The crowd's mocking laughter, "Green phosphorus? More like green trash," echoed through the stands. But Cheng Xiao only nodded once, a determined spark in his eye. "Let them laugh," he whispered. "Today, we show them exactly what the 7-Star Academy is made of." With that, Cheng Xiao led his team towards center field, the snickers fading as the game began, and the real competition took over. Chapter 177, The Arrival of the Colleges. Bright spring sunlight streamed down Tiando City's Grand Avenue of Souls, illuminating a procession of advanced-tier soul masters as they made their way toward the Imperial Palace. Wherever they passed, young men and women paused, their voices dropping to whispered exclamations of awe and admiration. On each side of the broad boulevard, graceful maidens in pastel gowns leaned against marble railings, their cheeks flushed, shy smiles feathering across their faces as they watched the newcomers stride by with confident ease. In this world, where power wins respect and prestige, top-ranked soulmasters possess an almost magnetic allure. Today, Tiando City buzzed with excitement, its usual solemnity washed away by the swelling tide of youthful energy. Standing near the city gates, Cheng Xiao observed the glittering parade of uniforms until a particular shade of green caught his eye. A group of soul masters from Shrek Academy was approaching, their garish uniforms, don't call it chartreuse green, flashing in the sun. Cheng Xiao couldn't help but wrinkle his nose. He contemplated turning away entirely, unwilling to behold such an eyesore. Just then, Douluo strode up, clapped him gently on the shoulder, and grinned. "You have to admit," he said, nodding at the oncoming group, "Shrek Academy's got distinctive taste. That uniform suits them pretty well, don't you think?" Cheng Xiao shot a wry smile. With a casual shrug, he conceded, "I suppose it does." Beneath his calm exterior, though, his mind spun with anticipation. If these are the colors Shrek Academy chooses to make a statement, what surprises would their soul masters have in store at today's grand assembly? When the towering gates of the Great Soul Fighting Arena finally swung open, a tidal wave of spectators surged through, clamoring for the best vantage points. Douluo Yan stood at the back of the queue, watching in disbelief as the throng pressed forward. "This is absolutely wild," she murmured, shaking her head. Beside her, Douluo grinned. "Relax, Yanzi. I've got our tickets, and then some." He swept his arm toward the contestants from 7 Stars Academy, who had gathered around them. "Follow me." Rather than pushing into the crowd, Douluo led them down a narrow corridor outside the main entrance. As they distanced themselves from the roar of the masses, the noise level fell away until it was little more than a faint rumble. Rounding a corner, they came to a plain gray door inset in the arena's outer wall, and already dozens of royal guards stood at attention before it. The students exchanged surprised glances. This wasn't an entrance for ordinary spectators. Douluo stepped up to the lead royal soldier, flashing a sealed scroll marked with the royal insignia. The guard's stern expression softened as he recognized the seal. With a crisp salute, he waved Douluo and his party through. No one else dared to protest. As they slipped inside the side door, the muffled roar of the crowd grew louder again. This time, the roar belonged to them. They were exactly where they needed to be. The only team Douluo would ever lead was the 7 Stars Academy, the very institution founded by Crown Prince Shui Qinghe. After slipping through the side gate, they strolled a short distance until the trees gave way to a broad, sunlit courtyard. Cheng Xiao and the others looked up to find that Shui Qinghe had arrived well before them. Standing at his side was an elderly man in a python-patterned robe, his silver hair neatly bound behind his head, his posture still sturdy despite his 70 years, and a kindly, distinguished face framed by a generous paunch. Spotting Douluo's party, the old man hurried forward and bowed. "Master Douluo, you've come early this morning." Douluo returned the bow with a smile. "Your Highness sets a fine example of punctuality." He then turned to Cheng Xiao, who was still taking in the scene. "Cheng Xiao, allow me to introduce you. This is Prince Xing. He's done me the honor of his support these past years." Cheng Xiao stepped forward, inclined his head in respect, and said, "Your Highness, it's an honor to meet you." Prince Shuixing studied him with a thoughtful smile. "Master Douluo tells me you possess considerable talent." Prince Shuixing strolled over with a friendly smile, appraising Cheng Xiao from head to toe. Is he your disciple? He asked Douluo Bo, recalling what the other man had just mentioned. A chuckle escaped him. Douluo Bo shook his head, returning the smile. I wish, he replied, but someone else was faster than I. Prince Xuexing raised an eyebrow in feigned surprise. Oh, so this young man's master is also a titled Douluo. He studied Cheng Xiao's youthful face and thought to himself, this kid must have serious backing. I'd better cultivate a friendship with him. Before Cheng Xiao could answer, Prince Xuexing called out over his shoulder, Mr. Douluo, brother Cheng Xiao, you're early today. A moment later, Xuexing appeared, and Prince Xuexing's smile faltered. Why does he keep showing up everywhere? He wondered, secretly annoyed. Cheng Xiao offered a polite grin to Xuexing. Brother Xue, you arrived before me. Xuexing returned the smile, though it looked a bit forced. Cheng Xiao, you flatter me. I had a few matters to take care of first. I hope brother Cheng Xiao will really surprise me in the match, Xuexing murmured. Of course, Cheng Xiao replied with a respectful bow and a confident smile. Xuexing simply nodded and turned, striding away to join Prince Xuexing and Douluo Bo as they headed toward the VIP lounge. Meanwhile, Cheng Xiao and the rest remained behind in their academy's viewing area at the Tiando Grand Fighting Soul Arena. Rows upon rows of seats stretched out before them, and farther in lay a cozy lounge reserved for the students to rest and wait for their turn. Cheng Xiao was still chatting animatedly with his friends when a group of 7 figures appeared at the far end of the stands, marching steadily toward them. The students wore the distinctive gold and red uniforms of Chihuo Academy. Leading the way was a young man of medium build. His broad shoulders and sharp gaze lent him an air of intensity. At his side walked a striking girl whose dark red bob and tailored uniform highlighted her elegance and confidence. As the Chihuo Academy group approached, their eyes quickly settled on Cheng Xiao and his companions. The leader glanced around, suspicion flickering across his face. This is odd, he said, stepping forward. I don't recognize your academy. Which one are you from? Is that a new academy? Brother, didn't teacher mention it before we left? Huo Wushuang sneered. It's called 7 Stars Academy. I heard it was founded by Prince Xuexing of the Tiando royal family and Douluo. Rumor has it they even poached every member of the original Royal Du team. Huo Wu scratched his head. Really? It seems like nobody here at the Soul Master competition is ordinary. Titles don't matter, Huo Wushuang countered, her eyes gleaming. Strength is everything, but we can't afford to be overconfident. Our goal is a top 3 finish. Losing because we underestimated someone would be a joke. Huo nodded in agreement. Elsewhere, in the northwest corner of the Great Soul Fighting Arena, a cluster of young women in midnight blue dresses watched the newcomers with equal curiosity. One of them leaned forward and whispered, Sister, has this 7 Stars Academy ever competed here before? How have I never heard of this academy before? The girl in the dark blue dress swept a lock of her ice blue hair behind her ear. Her delicate, heart-shaped face and graceful bearing always drew attention. She turned toward her companion, who, with the same long, ice blue hair and striking features, could have been her twin, and asked again, Do you know anything about them? Shui Binger shook her head. No, I only just learned they exist. It's a brand new school, so I have no idea how skilled their students are. But new or not, we mustn't let our guard down when we compete. We understand, Captain, the others echoed in unison. Chapter 178, The Villain's Attributes Awaken. Under the blazing sun, Tiando City's Grand Soul Arena buzzed with anticipation. The VIP boxes were filling fast. Praised nobles, influential officials, and powerful soul masters from the imperial capital all clamored for a good view. The stands below had already become a sea of faces, their collective roar surging like a tidal wave into the afternoon sky. In one of the sky-high boxes, Yu Qianheng and Cheng Xiao sat side by side, casually observing the growing crowd. Yu Qianheng offered a confident grin and nudged his companion. Cheng Xiao, you really think 7 Star Academy will take the championship this year? Cheng Xiao turned to him, a wry smile playing at his lips. Do you? I do, Yu Qianheng said after a thoughtful pause. He lifted his chin, eyes bright with newfound certainty. But I wouldn't have said it before you joined us. Every top academy has been training for this day. Even though I've awakened the continent's strongest beast martial soul, I still faced opponents I couldn't be sure of defeating, until now. Cheng Xiao's expression softened. That soul of yours is exceptional, but it's your leadership and our teamwork that will carry us through. Ready to show them why 7-Star Academy deserves the crown? Yu Tianheng tightened his grip on the balcony railing, his resolve hardening. Ready. The thunderous cheers from below washed over them, affirming that the real battle was about to begin. And this time, they would stand victorious. At this point, aside from the solo matches, Wuhun no longer holds uncontested sway over the competition. Still, Yu Tianheng is utterly convinced that with Cheng Xiao's assistance, only 7-Star College, no one else, can seize the crown in this once-every-5 years championship. Tianheng, Cheng Xiao said with a casual wave, brushing imaginary dust from his robes, blind confidence can be just as dangerous as no confidence at all. Yu Tianheng regarded him with a raised eyebrow. Cheng Xiao grinned. But then again, a complete lack of faith in yourself isn't healthy either. The noise in here is stifling. I'm going to get some fresh air. Be back shortly. Wait up, Cheng Xiao. I'm coming too. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the Grand Spirit Arena, this place is packed, Ma Hongjun exclaimed, eyes widening as he took in the sea of spectators. He reached up to steady his mask. It threatened to collapse under the crowd's jostle, and scanned everyone from toddlers to gray-haired veterans. Whenever a particularly buxom onlooker passed by, he swallowed hard, unable to look away. Ma Hongjun hung back at the rear of his teammates, grateful that his less-than-dashing appearance went unnoticed in the bustling crowd. Even so, his eyes flicked from face to face, and when a particularly striking contestant strolled past, he couldn't help but murmur to himself, "They really aren't kidding. This is a Soul Master competition, and there are beauties everywhere you look." A blush crept across his round cheeks, but he couldn't tear his gaze away. That's when he spotted her, Zhangju, gliding by in her Shrek Academy uniform. Naturally, she caught him staring. Their eyes met for a heartbeat, and she offered him a soft, polite smile. To her, the 14-year-old Ma Hongjun was an adorable bundle of pudgy innocence, his fat head and big ears giving him a sort of cherubic charm. Little did she suspect the thoughts racing through his mind. All around them, whispers rippled through the throng of onlookers. The distinctive green and black jackets of Shrek Academy students set heads turning. Is that really an advanced Soul Master Academy team? Do they think this is a stage for auditions? Someone scoffed. They must be sponsored. Look at them parading through the crowd. Quiet, another voice hissed hurriedly. They're all Soul Masters, every one of them. They're not here to show off. They're here to register. Now look, over by the registration booths. That big guy in the blue robe is their elder, isn't he? Ma Hongjun straightened his back as the murmurs swelled. He cast one last glance at Zhangju's serene smile before nudging his teammates forward. Whatever chatter trailed behind them, he was determined to prove that Shrek Academy belonged here as much as any other. A few disgruntled voices rippled through the stands as the crowd caught sight of them. He looks like a ball, one spectator sneered. Isn't his martial spirit just a big orb? He's not nodding. He's practically bobbing his head up and down, another added. Did you see how he's always got his chin tucked in like that? Ugh, so gross, a third spat. How does a fat guy like that even qualify as a Soul Master? I can't believe this. But the three Flanders ignored the taunts and pushed their way through the throng, stride confident and unhurried. Once they'd found a side bench and settled in, Ma Hongjun peeled off his mask with a disgruntled sigh. I'm never wearing this thing again, he declared. It completely kills my heroic image. Wen shot him a sympathetic grin. Well, we probably won't even see action today. Let's talk to Dean Chen when we get back. Tomorrow, we just skip the uniform altogether. At least get those silly words taken off the back of our jackets. Tang San, idly tracing the rim of his seat with one finger, nodded in agreement. Exactly. No harm in asking. They all exchanged determined looks, and just then, Ma Hongjun's sharp gaze caught sight of two familiar figures moving through the crowd, flanked by a handful of admiring beauties. A flicker of jealousy crossed his face. Wait up, he muttered, springing to his feet, mask forgotten, and hurried off into the stands to close the distance. Cheng Xiao stepped onto the balcony and breathed in the cool night air. Spotting Yu Tianheng right behind her, she teased, "Tianheng, I only came out for some fresh air. You sneak out after me? If Sister Yanzi comes back from registering and doesn't see you, she'll tease me until sunrise." Yu Tianheng chuckled softly. "Don't worry, Yanzi's kind and fair. She won't make a fuss." They were sharing a quiet laugh when a rough voice cut through the air behind them. Well, if it isn't the little white lapdog of Tiando Royal Academy." Cheng Xiao tensed. Yu Tianheng turned, his brow darkening. "Excuse me," the stranger sneered. "What, did they kick you out of Tiando? Ended up here at some second-rate 7-star academy? Just from the name, I can tell it's a dump." Cheng Xiao's confusion turned to recognition when she saw the man's broad build and the ornate mask he held. Yu Tianheng's eyes narrowed. "You're from Shrek Academy. I've met you before." The man, Ma Hongjun, grinned and jingled his mask in amusement. "Oh, you remember Fatty, do you? Countless folks know me around here." He took a step closer, voice dripping contempt. "Look at you two, thinking yourselves important. Tell me, who gave you the right?" Yu Tianheng's calm facade cracked, revealing steel. "Back off, Ma Hongjun." Ma Hongjun shrugged, unabashed. "Why would I? Everyone at Shrek Academy, our grandmaster, our dean, they've all got my back. After all, a soul master who can't stir up trouble isn't worth a damn." He laughed, the sound echoing against the walls. Cheng Xiao stiffened at his words, but Yu Tianheng raised a hand, his voice cold and even. "We're not here to fight. Leave us be." Ma Hongjun's grin widened. "If that's your decision, then, for now." He flipped the mask over his head, vanishing into the shadowed corridor as abruptly as he'd appeared. The night fell silent again. Cheng Xiao exhaled shakily. That was intense. Yu Tianheng studied the dark doorway where Ma Hongjun had disappeared, concern flickering in his eyes. "He won't let this go, but we'll handle it, together." Cheng Xiao nodded. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they'd face them side by side. Ma Hongjun's plan had clearly thrown Cheng Xiao off balance. With a faint, mocking curl of her lips, she called out, "Hey there, little fatty. If I'm not mistaken, you're not even a real man anymore, are you?" Instantly, Ma Hongjun's face went ashen. His gaze locked onto Cheng Xiao with pure, murderous intent. "What did you just say?" Cheng Xiao let out a low laugh, tilting her head as she watched the members of the Shrek team emerge from the lounge behind Ma Hongjun. "Do you need me to repeat myself? A eunuch's presence here is just embarrassing your college. Better to sit this one out." Before Ma Hongjun could retort, a calm, measured voice cut through the tension. Tang San stepped out from the lounge, his face still hidden behind the mask. "There's no point in all this bickering," he said evenly. "If you have the skill, let's settle it on the stage. Stop barking like a stray dog." "Third brother is right," Ma Hongjun stammered, relief flickering in his eyes. Cheng Xiao shrugged, brushing the stray bangs from her forehead and smiling coolly. "Ah, I almost forgot. You're here too." She gave him a chilly glance. "Make sure you don't get in over your head." With that, the two academies lined up, the air crackling around them. Tonight's duel was about to begin. He pulled his mask aside, revealing his full brow, and a cold gleam shone in his eyes. "Last time I let you walk away," he sneered. "Big mistake. Coming here was even worse. You'd better lean into your villain role, because next time you won't get off so easy." Tang San's pulse quickened. He'd built his reputation on honor, and being branded a villain stung more than any physical blow. He flexed his fingers under the mask, ready to strike back, when a strong, authoritative voice cut through the tension. "What do you think you're doing? Don't you know that staging a private duel during the tournament means automatic disqualification?" At that, the Shrek Academy students exchanged startled looks and hastily stepped back. From the fringe of the crowd, Flanders emerged. He'd been deep in conversation with one of the masters when he heard the disturbance and moved forward to investigate. Seeing Cheng Xiao squared off against the newcomer, he wasted no time intervening, placing himself squarely between them. Flanders fixed the masked challenger with a steely stare. He knew the formidable reputation of 7-Star Academy all too well, and he wouldn't allow a brawl to undermine the tournament's integrity. "This ends now," he said quietly but unmistakably. The challenger hesitated under Flanders's gaze, and for a moment the only sound was the wind rustling through the stands. With the rules invoked and Flanders's intervention, the challenge dissolved, leaving the two academies to steel themselves for the real contest ahead. Flanders' smile was a bit forced as he hurried over to Cheng Xiao. "Brother Cheng Xiao, it's been too long. I really can't thank you enough for what you did last time." He still shuddered at the memory of how their little trio had been trounced by Douluo's ice and fire eyes. Flanders didn't want to make an enemy of Cheng Xiao. If Cheng Xiao hadn't intervened, who knew how long they'd have lasted? He'd never forget that life-saving kindness. "Dean Flanders, good to see you again," Cheng Xiao replied with a courteous nod, folding his hands behind his back. "If there's nothing else, we'll be on our way. Remember, private matches are forbidden, but when we hit the official competition stage, please show no mercy, Dean Flanders." Without waiting for a response, Cheng Xiao turned and led Yu Qianheng away, his gaze flicking briefly to the lounge. Yu Qianheng's master still hadn't appeared, no doubt too frightened to show his face. A fitting end, thought Cheng Xiao, to a coward worthy of expulsion from the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex clan. Chapter 179, You have to do this so he'll learn his lesson. After Cheng Xiao and Yu Tianheng strolled off, Ma Hongjun turned to Flanders, eyes blazing. "Teacher, why are you bending over backwards for Cheng Xiao? He got kicked out of Tiando Royal Academy, hardly a threat." Flanders shot him a glare sharp enough to cut stone. "That's enough, Hongjun. Watch your tongue. The Dean of Seven Stars Academy is poisoned Douluo Dugubo. Don't go stirring up trouble with him. If anything happens, neither I nor anyone from our college can save you. Even if all our instructors show up, we're powerless." "Dugubo?" Ma Hongjun frowned. "Is that the same third brother warned us about? The merciless titled Douluo who claimed the Ice and Fire Eye treasure land?" He sounded skeptical and resentful. Tang San reached out and gave Ma Hongjun's shoulder a steadying squeeze. His voice was calm, almost playful. "Fatty, Dugubo's granddaughter is entering the competition too. You'd better keep your eyes on her, and take this chance to get revenge for your evil fire problem. If it weren't for her meddling, you'd have that sorted ages ago." Ma Hongjun's eyes lit up at the prospect. Revenge or no, he knew Tang San had set his sights on an opportunity, and he wasn't about to let it slip by. "Don't worry, third brother. I've got it handled." Ma Hongjun gave a confident nod, a faint sneer tugging at the corner of his mouth as he followed the others back into the lounge. The little incident was already fading into memory. Before long, competition staff swept into the rest area, sealing off the entrance to keep latecomers at bay. They wasted no time beginning the opening ceremony. One by one, the teams filed in, every school except Shrek Academy, who found themselves unceremoniously left behind at the back of the hall. Only when every other team had taken its place did a reluctant official approach them, herding them through the side passage into the arena. If Flanders had not held them back, Tang San and the rest of Shrek Academy would have confronted those staff members on the spot. Their anger simmered, tightly controlled by nothing more than Flanders' steel discipline. Then, as a single, sonorous bell rang out across the great soul-fighting arena, the buzz of the crowd fell instantly silent. Every eye turned toward the stage, and the opening ceremony began. The deep toll of the bell still reverberated through the grand hall as the elderly figure rose from the VIP table. Clad in a crimson and gold robe and wearing a diamond-studded crown, his lined face looked as weathered as the moon. Each step trembled with age as he made his way forward, until he stood before the gathered soul masters. Raising his right hand in a measured salute, he lifted the soul-amplifying horn to his lips and spoke in a clear, commanding voice. "On behalf of the Tiando Empire and the organizers of this competition, I, Emperor Shuiye, hereby declare the Continental Elite Soul Masters Tournament officially open." A thunderous wave of applause swept the auditorium, then subsided to a respectful hush. Emperor Shuiye nodded toward the side of the stage. "Now, I invite Master Ning Fengji of the Qibao Glazed Sect to deliver the opening address." Ning Fengji rose with calm dignity, placed his hands on the amplifier, and began in measured tones. "It is my great honor to stand before so many talented soul masters." Across the floor, among the contestants, Cheng Xiao stifled a wry smile and shook his head, already bracing himself for the hours of ceremonious speech yet to come. Cheng Xiao sat through the school leader's droning speech with barely concealed boredom. It reminded him all too much of the road addresses he'd given in his previous life. Just as his attention began to wander completely, the soft echo of footsteps snapped him back. He looked up to see Qian Renshui, once a striking blonde man, now reverted to her elegant female form, making her way toward him. This woman, Cheng Xiao thought, his lip twitching. He cast a quick glance at Ye Lingling, who sat beside him, then rose and quietly slipped out of the hall. Qian Renshui hesitated for a heartbeat when she saw him go, then caught Ye Lingling's supportive gaze and followed Cheng Xiao through the doors. Meanwhile, in a distant corner, Ma Hongjun, who'd been indulging in some very obvious people-watching, couldn't help but notice Qian Renshui's graceful departure. Watching her walk off with Cheng Xiao, he muttered under his breath, "Damn, she's stunning." He glanced at Dai Mubai, eager for a fellow spectator, only to find Dai Mubai unmoved and unmoved, leaving Ma Hongjun to stew in his own admirations. Dai Mubai hadn't even left the arena before his mind was racing ahead. If he lost to his elder brother today, it wouldn't just be a defeat, it would cost him his life. He needed to make amends with Juju King as soon as possible. Outside the hall, Ma Hongjun bounced on the balls of his feet, eager as ever. "Boss Dai, you coming?" he asked. Dai Mubai glanced toward a young woman standing by the wall. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but her aura gave him pause. "Look at her," he murmured. "She's gorgeous, but there's no soul power signature. She's not a soul master." Ma Hongjun's eyes lit up. "All the better. Let's follow her and see what she's up to." Dai Mubai's patience snapped. "No, enough games." Ma Hongjun puffed out his cheeks and wagged a finger. "Fine, if you're too chicken to come, I'll go by myself. Fatty," he said, turning to a nearby teammate, "you're on spy duty. I'm gonna dig up some dirt." With a dramatic flourish, he stormed off. Dai Mubai just shook his head. That kid is hopeless. Keeping low and moving quietly, Ma Hongjun tailed the blonde woman down a dimly lit corridor. He crouched behind a pillar, careful not to alert her. From here, he could see the gentle sway of her waist as she walked, every step measured and graceful. Just ahead of her strode Cheng Xiao, the one person Ma Hongjun distrusted more than any other. He settled into the shadows, determined to uncover whatever secret had drawn these two together. His heart thudded with anticipation. If there was dirt to be found, he would find it, and he wouldn't let anyone, boss or brother, stand in his way. Ma Hongjun watched nervously as the pair drifted farther down the corridor. He swallowed hard and muttered under his breath, "Who does she think she is? Turning her nose up at me? Fine. No rush. That blonde is definitely worth coming back for later." He was still plotting when he caught a flicker of movement in the wall's shadow. Two inky black eyes peeled open, as if waking from a long slumber. Startled, Ma Hongjun finally noticed that the blonde had stopped walking and was now leaning casually against the wall. Cheng Xiao, who had escorted her this far, paused and turned back, his expression unreadable. Then Ma Hongjun saw it. Cheng Xiao's eyes glowed with an otherworldly golden flame. His stare was cold and merciless, like someone looking down on something already doomed. "What's happening? Weren't they?" Ma Hongjun began, but before he could finish, the room grew eerily silent. Black, thorny vines burst from the floor, coiling around his ankles and trapping him in place. The golden blaze in Cheng Xiao's eyes intensified, and in that moment, Ma Hongjun knew he had gravely underestimated them. Cheng Xiao watched Ma Hongjun's trembling form and asked, voice deceptively calm, "So, what do we do with him? Do you really think a man like this will regret anything once he's lost it?" Qian Renshui lifted her hands, her eyes glowing with that sacred golden flame. The fire danced across her palms in lithe elfin arcs, weaving heat and light in the dim room. Ma Hongjun's face drained of color. Beads of sweat rolled down his temples. Cheng Xiao stroked his chin. He gave the cowering man a slow, appraising look. "Well, he doesn't exactly look like much of a man anymore, does he? Since he likes to think with his lower body so much, perhaps we should remove the temptation altogether." A soft chuckle escaped Qian Renshui. "Oh, I was thinking the same thing, gee." Her gaze darkened. At the tip of a slender finger, the golden flame coalesced into a razor-sharp thorn of pure, sacred fire. It glowed fiercely, impossibly bright against the shadows. Cheng Xiao leaned in behind her. His presence was so close that the air between them seemed to congeal, charged with silent power and the faint crackle of flame. In that stillness, only their even breaths and the tiny hiss of fire dared to break the hush. Together, they made an unspoken pact. Mercy was out of the question. Ma Hongjun's fate was sealed. Cheng Xiao lifted his hand slowly and pressed his palm to the back of Qian Renshui's. In that instant, their two disparate energies combined, like tributaries merging into a raging river. A deep magnetic whisper echoed in Qian Renshui's mind. Do this. Make sure he can never live as a man again. At those words, a golden longsword wrapped in black smoke erupted from Cheng Xiao's fingertips. Ah! The blade sliced cleanly through Ma Hongjun's leg. Blood spurted as the corpulent man's knee gave way, and he crashed to the floor. Third brother, Boss Dai, help me, please, he whimpered, eyes bulging with terror, his face drained of color. Without a second glance, Cheng Xiao withdrew his power from Qian Renshui, vanishing as if he had never been there. Seizing the moment of shock, he slipped toward the exit. But once a crime has been witnessed, fleeing isn't so simple. As Cheng Xiao surged forward, Qian Renshui's form blurred into a radiant golden afterimage that solidified before him, blocking his path. What did you just do to me? Cheng Xiao demanded. Chapter 180. It feels good. Can you do it again? Qian Renshui's eyes blazed with golden fire. With a delicate motion of her jade-like hand, she summoned a radiant longsword and pressed its tip against Cheng Xiao's throat. What did you do to me? She demanded, her voice ice-cold. Cheng Xiao threw up his hands in mock innocence. Don't accuse me. I haven't touched you. Anger flashed across Qian Renshui's face. She poured every ounce of her sacred soul power into the blade and drove it forward, determined to force a confession. Yet, just as the sword's edge was about to break skin, it froze in midair, utterly immovable, as though held by an invisible hand. Cheng Xiao grinned. The mighty coils of the blue-silver emperor were wrapped protectively around him, its scaled body gleaming in the dim light. See? You're taking this way too seriously. With a casual snap of his fingers, Cheng Xiao shattered her sword. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber as the golden blade splintered into two, fragments raining to the floor like metallic petals. You! Qian Renshui staggered back, shock etched on her face. She stared at the broken hilt in her hand, scarcely believing her own eyes. Her most powerful weapon, born from her soul's deepest reserves, had been destroyed with effortless ease. She had never before felt such helplessness, and it burned as fiercely as her anger. This was sacred soul power, nothing like the ordinary kind. That energy, it's yours. Cheng Xiao reached out and wrenched the long sword from Qian Renshui's hand. He closed the distance between them in an instant. She tried to recoil, but the blue-silver emperor's tendrils wrapped around her limbs, locking her in place. Completely immobilized, all she could do was watch in helpless fury. Sk, you're amazing, Cheng Xiao teased, curling his lips into a lecherous grin. You'd chop me down in an instant, wouldn't you? Before she could react, his hand shot out and landed with a sharp smack on her backside. Qian Renshui's eyes widened in shock. Cheng Xiao adopted a mock-serious expression. Feels pretty good. How about a rematch? Do you want to die? Her golden eyes burned so fiercely they threatened to ignite. Nobody had ever dared touch her like that. Yet Cheng Xiao only chuckled, glancing down at his palm as if lost in some delightfully wicked thought. It's incredible, but if you swing that sword at me again, I'll be history. What do you think? Through gritted teeth, Qian Renshui seethed. If she weren't bound by the blue-silver emperor, she would have cut this insolent brat to pieces already. Very well. Cheng Xiao smiled casually. It's settled. Unless I slap you first, you're not allowed to cut me to pieces. Before Qian Renshui could reply, Cheng Xiao planted his foot and shot forward. In an instant, he was gone, so fast that a gust of wind ruffled her golden hair. As he vanished, the flicker of his blue-silver emperor aura around her dissipated, leaving Qian Renshui standing alone, her cheeks hot with embarrassment and annoyance. She balled her fists, her breathing quickening with restrained fury. Cheng Xiao, she whispered through gritted teeth, I'll make you regret this. In the VIP pavilion overlooking the Grand Soul fighting arena, Platinum Bishop Solace sat with his retinue. A palace attendant knelt beside him, holding a set of engraved lots. Solace eyed them with evident reluctance, then signaled the host. Announce the draw, he said in a low voice. As each lot was drawn, the master of ceremonies called out the name of the chosen combatant, his voice echoing through the vast coliseum. The crowd hushed, anticipation crackling in the air. Another round in the life-or-death spectacle of the Grand Soul Fighting Arena had begun. Chapter X, A Familiar Adversary. The stadium fell silent as the announcer's voice boomed across the field. In the opening round of the qualifiers, Kanghui College will face Purple Star College. A brief pause then, Oakland College versus Flame Glory College. Finally, with the Hua Shesh growing almost reverent. And in the last match of this round, 7-Star Academy against Shrek Academy. Shrek Academy's students exchanged startled glances. They'd barely registered the earlier draws, but hearing 7-Star Academy named as their first opponent sent a ripple of tension through the crowd. Oscar stood frozen, his mind racing. No one else noticed the tremor in his voice as he whispered, "This can't be real. Is it some prank?" All he could think of was Ning Rongrong, his former classmate who had left Shrek Academy to enroll at 7-Star Academy. She'd urged him to transfer with her into the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect, but Oscar had insisted on staying behind. He owed everything to Master Flanders, who had rescued and trained him. Oscar promised he would only join the Seven Treasures sect after the tournament, and Ning Rongrong, though disappointed, had said nothing more. She simply encouraged him to train harder now, assuring him that once he joined her clan, he would gain access to far superior resources. Now fate had thrown them onto the same battlefield, no longer allies, but rivals. As the crowd erupted into excited chatter, Oscar clenched his fists. He glanced at his teammates, determination hardening his resolve. If he had to face Ning Rongrong in combat, then so be it. He would prove that his loyalty and strength were not to be underestimated. With that thought, he stepped forward, ready to meet the challenge that destiny had laid before him. Dai Mubai cracked his knuckles, the sharp pop of bone echoing through the hall. "This time, we're taking our revenge," he growled. "Xiao-san, remember how Cheng Xiao from 7-Star Academy humiliated us in Soto City? Well, Shrek's strength has exploded since then. You, Xiao Wu, and I have all broken into the Spirit Master Grandmaster tier, and Fatty and the rest each boast spirit rings from 30-year beasts. It's high time we showed them what real power looks like." A slow smile curved Tang San's lips. He'd longed for an opportunity to test himself against 7-Star Academy, and now he intended not only to defeat Cheng Xiao, but to reveal to everyone that his fourth spirit ring was forged from a 10,000-year beast. Just then, Master Tang's voice came from the dais. "Xiao-san, arrange the next bout." Tang San bowed once. "Our lineup for the upcoming match will be myself, Dai Mubai, Xiao Wu, Ju Qing, Xiao Ao, Tai Long, and Fatty." Master Tang nodded in approval. "Very well. Under tournament rules, Cheng Xiao may only rely on his martial soul. His Black Shadow Panther cannot be summoned for this fight." Tang San's eyes gleamed with confidence. "Perfect. Stripped of his soul beast, he won't stand a chance. Let's make 7-Star Academy remember the name Shrek. Although it's technically part of his martial spirit, if you think about it, it functions as a separate weapon altogether." The professor nodded in approval. "Well put, Xiao-san. Before long, these wild soul masters will learn just how formidable Shrek Academy really is." Dai Mubai cracked his knuckles, his tiger-like eyes blazing with determination. "This time, we're going to make them eat their words and wash away all our shame." Tang San glanced around the crowded stands. "By the way, Mubai, the match is about to start. Where's Ma Hongjun?" Dai Mubai couldn't suppress a chuckle. Knowing him, he probably couldn't hulk that raging flame panda spirit, and has wandered off to pester the girls again. Tang San slapped his forehead. "Seriously? At a time like this? Mubai, come on. We have to find him before he turns this opening ceremony into a disaster." "Right." Dai Mubai nodded. Leading Tang San, Oscar, and the others out of the viewing area, he headed toward the spot where Ma Hongjun had disappeared. In the 7-Star Academy lounge, Cheng Xiao was stretched out on a sofa, lazily watching the match through the big glass windows. Beside him sat Qian Renshui in near silence. Though they were only a few inches apart, an unmistakable chill hung between them. Unable to ignore the tension, drifted over to Cheng Xiao's side. She gave him a pointed look. "What's going on with you and Renshui? You two are acting really weird." Cheng Xiao opened his mouth, hesitated, and then shut it again. How could he explain that he'd smacked Qian Renshui earlier, and now she was seething? He cleared his throat. It's nothing, really. Ye Lingling narrowed her eyes, clearly catching on to more than he was saying, but she abandoned the subject. Forget it. Our next match is against Shrek Academy. They're probably already plotting a strategy to beat us. Should we lay out some plays? Cheng Xiao waved a hand dismissively. Plays or no plays, it won't change a thing. If that doesn't work, just release Sister Qianshui, Cheng Xiao said with a cool smile. She cast a casual glance at Qian Renshui standing silently to the side, only to notice that her soul energy was surging more strongly than before. Cheng Xiao, Ye Lingling sneered from across the ring. Mark my words, one day I'll have you under my heel. I'll make you kneel and beg me to sing Conquer. At Ye Lingling's taunt, Qian Renshui's fingers curled into tight fists. She couldn't explain why Cheng Xiao's confidence stirred something inside her, an unfamiliar mix of envy and admiration she had never felt before. High above them, the massive Combat Soul Arena thundered with cheers. The match between Konghui Academy and Zixing Academy had begun in earnest. Brilliant soul techniques lit up the field as each side unleashed a barrage of dazzling attacks. Spectators rose to their feet, swept away by the breathtaking spectacle of power and skill on display.